A salaryman pants walking in the middle of a dense forest hauling a food cart as he goes. As he continues walking, he can't believe that he's in another world. And would you look at that, just before him lies a city with a looming castle. At last, civilization. So how exactly did this come to be? Let's wind it back to the start. Our story's hero is Ryo Sato, just your average Japanese salaryman. He just got out of work, standing in front of the busy city streets and wondering where he should eat today. Now that he remembers it, the curry he ate yesterday is still kind of tempting, but his attention is soon diverted to a certain item that looks out of place, a wooden food cart. In all honesty, this is Ryo's first time seeing something like this. He parts the norin and checks if anybody is inside. Huh, that's weird. It made him wonder if the owner is still preparing. Well, that's too bad. Guess he'll have to look for another shop, no? But the moment Ryo looks back at the main street, it's gone and is now replaced by a dense forest. What the? Our hero frantically looks around, wondering where he is and what just happened. Suddenly, a status screen appears before him, like the ones used in games where his stats are displayed. Wait a minute. Does this mean that he really transmigrated to another world? But more importantly, what's this skill, food cart? From the looks of it, even Ryo knows that this skill is not the type that is overpowered and unbeatable, and from the looks of it, it probably has something to do with the cart. However, he finds it odd because the cart doesn't have a table or a stove at all. Well, it's not like he has any other choice, right? Ryo decides to lug it around wherever he's going. So now back to the present. Our hero stands before the entrance of the great city and sees lots of people going in as well. Finally, he's saved. Okay, but first he needs to enter the city. Although he's not sure if he could enter properly if he also lined up, Ryo did so anyway. Before long, he hears the guard yell next, signaling that it's his turn. The guard wears a scowl as he inspects Ryo by first asking for his name. Our hero tries not to be intimidated as he introduces himself. But hey, at least he could understand the language here. But back to the inspection. Upon hearing Ryo's name, the guard asks if he's from a faraway country. Ryo easily agrees that what the former said is correct, thinking the guard wouldn't understand even if he tried to explain the truth anyway. The guard checks the wanted list and sees Ryo doesn't match any of them, so he will let him pass as long as he pays 4,000 krona as an entry fee. Ryo echoes the currency, puzzled, as the guard asks if our hero is not aware of it. Well, if he has no money, the older man offers to take something of appropriate value instead, like the coat Ryo is wearing. Yes, that seems to be of good quality. Our hero quickly takes it off and offers it to the guard, who confirms it upon receipt. With that, he finally lets Ryo pass as the guard welcomes him to Solon City, the Kingdom of Ireland, Fostria territory. Once inside, Ryo notices that the city has a medieval atmosphere, which reinforces that he really is in a completely different world right now. His only concern right now is the citizen stares because of the way he's dressed. It may be a different world, but without money he pretty much can't do anything. This prompts him to ask if he should just sell the clothes he has, which is exactly what he did. Ryo sells them to an auntie who was more than happy to buy such quality clothes made of excellent fabric. Heck, she even gave her a bonus for it. Thanks to that, he's got more than enough money to buy the same clothes the people are wearing, and he even managed to book an inn for the night. As he lies in bed that night, Ryo lets out a long sigh. He can't believe he came to another world in the blink of an eye. Just thinking about this makes him feel sad because he won't get to see his parents or friends anymore. But more than that, it makes him wonder if he'll ever get to return to his original world one day. Okay, nope. He's not going to sit and mull about things like these, it's far too depressing. He gets up and vows to live in this new world until the very end. And now it's time to address the elephant in the room, his skill, food cart. Since he's already here, he might as well try and find out what this new ability of his is all about. After all, his skill is his lifeline in this world. Our hero stretches his hand out and yells, "Open status screen." The screen immediately pops up along with a few pieces of information on what he can do. So far there are 3: creation magic, crafting magic, and storage magic. So this means he can create wheat and bread, huh? Given how this is his only skill, Ryo decides to just roll with it. He extends both of his hands forward to try creation magic, starting with water and wheat. He concentrates and imagines the items in his mind. And just like that, they both appear. Literally magic. Okay, so creation magic, check. Now it's time to test his crafting magic. Again, Ryo closes his eyes and imagines, hoping he will succeed, and he does. As soon as he opens his eyes, before him is a fluffy loaf of bread. He can't believe it. He actually created bread out of thin air. On top of that, it's freshly baked and looks incredibly delicious. But wait a minute, how will this bread taste? He takes a bite and lo and behold, the bread tastes as good as it looks. Bread of this kind is pretty rare, even in Japan. Now that he's done checking 2/3 of his skills, the only thing left for him to check is his storage magic. Based on his status screen, it looks like he can store the bread inside the food cart with this skill, which makes it feel like real magic. But to more important matters, as delicious as the bread is, Ryo wonders if he can really make a living with a skill like this. The next morning, Ryo heads down to the dining area, where he is greeted by the inn auntie, Auntie Rosa. She quickly offers him a breakfast plate, which Ryo gratefully accepts. For today's breakfast, they have a loaf of bread, a sunny-side egg with a few pieces of sausage, and salad on the side. He takes a bite of the sausage and finds it tasty, making Auntie Rosa happy. As for the bread, Ryo takes a bite of the unfamiliar bread since he doesn't see that kind in Japan. So is this the common bread of this world? But before he could mull over it, Auntie Rosa made small talk, asking what kind of work he does. Well, that's the thing, he doesn't have work, so he honestly tells her that he plans to start a business. For things like that, where does he need to go? Auntie Rosa suggests he head over to the Merchants Guild, especially if he plans on doing trade. With that, Ryo finishes his breakfast quickly and heads straight to the Merchants Guild, with the kind lady cheering him on. Once outside, Ryo remembers that there was a bakery nearby and decides to check what kind of bread they have in this world. He quickly spots the same bread he ate not too long ago, which means that this bread is the standard in this world. What's more, they don't seem to have toast bread in this world. So it got him thinking that if toast bread becomes popular in this world, it could become a profitable business. Soon enough, he reaches the Merchants Guild, where Natasha welcomes him and asks what he is there for today. Ryo tells her that he wants to sell bread from a cart. Natasha replies that to do that, he needs to register with the guild first, and since it's a cart-based sale, his registration will be at the lowest rank, 5th class merchant. Natasha also tells him that the guild will collect the registration fee and annual membership fee totaling 80,000 krona. Whoa, that's a pretty large sum, but it's not like Ryo can do anything about it, so he just hands her the fee. Now that he has paid, Natasha says they will also issue him a guild card, which is used as an identification document, urging him to be careful not to lose it. Next, she instructs Ryo to place his hand on the stone tablet, where they will read his information. As soon as he did that, the tablet glowed and a trail of light zapped into his card, thus finishing Ryo's registration to the Merchants Guild. Natasha hands him not only his guild card but also his proof of identity badge before wishing him the best of luck. Ryo exits the guild, feeling pleased because at first he was a bit anxious, wondering how things would turn out, but now he can finally start his business one way or another. Starting tomorrow, Ryo's real battle begins here. The next day, the local townsfolk watch curiously as the stranger calls out to them, selling his delicious bread. Of course, this is none other than our hero, Ryo. To recap, he was transported to another world with a strange cart, and the said cart also bestowed him the food cart skill, allowing him to make bread. Now if this bread sells, then he'll be able to make a living in this world, which explains his current predicament of trying to sell his toast bread. In theory, that seems pretty easy, but in reality it's much harder than it looks. The people eye him warily, finding him suspicious and won't buy any of his bread. But as fate would have it, an angel came to his rescue in the form of Auntie Rosa. The elder lady happily commends him for his hard work. She also brought with her his nephew Kane, who works as a chef. Ryo offers them a taste test, which Auntie gladly accepts. They tear a piece of morsel, and no sooner had they taken a bite, both Auntie Rosa and Kane were shocked, wondering what the hell this was. They never had bread this soft before. The taste and aroma are incomparable to any bread they've eaten before. It's completely different from ordinary bread. Auntie Rosa quickly orders everything Ryo could sell of this bread, since Auntie claims this bread is only usually eaten by nobles. Then she turns and tells Kane to serve this bread for dinner today. Her nephew points out that they usually buy their bread supply from another shop, but she says this one is fine, they'll try serving this one today. With that, the auntie and nephew duo went home carrying many loaves, thanking Ryo for selling the bread to them. As our MC waves goodbye to them, all he can think about is how relieved he is that they seem to like his bread. Well, since he's out of bread now, it's about time to create the next batch. Just then he hears a rumbling sound and turns to see a crowd running straight to him. Two ladies immediately ask if this was the same bakery Mrs. Rosa was talking about, asking if he would also sell his bread to them. Before long the others start clamoring, asking also to buy a piece or two. And just like that he sold his stock again. After a little while he informs the remaining customers that he'll be taking a short lunch break. As soon as he was out of earshot, Ryo couldn't help but comment on how the power of ladies is truly amazing. Of course they are. Ryo, they're the backbone of every fandom. But anyway, suddenly he hears a ping as a prompt appears, showing his status screen. With everything that happened, Ryo's status jumped from level 1 to level 4 in a short time. Now he can also make croissants. He decides to try making one now and poof, it worked. Ryo does a taste test and finds the pastry delicious. It's crispy on the outside and has a buttery flavor. But wait, so does this mean just making bread not only raises his level but is also tied to earning money? Oh well, he'll just decide to start selling croissants later this afternoon, along with the toast bread. With this he can earn even more. After lunch, Ryo opens his food cart again, selling his two products. As expected, the newly introduced croissant was an instant hit. More people came in and flocked to his humble food cart the whole afternoon. And before he knows it, Ryo has to announce that he's sold out for today, asking them to come again tomorrow instead. The ladies feel a little disappointed that all the bread is gone, but they promise to come back and buy from him tomorrow. Our hero didn't expect to get so many customers on his first day of selling, which just goes to show how amazing his cart skill is. Now then, time to check today's sales. A little while later he finishes checking his sales and is pleased to find out that the sales today are pretty decent. At this rate he could keep earning a reasonable amount. Still, doing this alone every day is pretty exhausting. With a sigh he wishes he could hire at least one person to help him with this. Well, for things like this he decides to head to the Merchants Guild. Back at the guild, Natasha asks what he was there for, so Ryo details his situation. After hearing him out, the receptionist tells him that what he would like to do is actually post a job opening. She points him to the bulletin board where he can post the notice. However, the guild will charge him an advertising fee for posting it. Ryo checks the bulletin board and deems that a lot of people will notice his job ad, and the board itself is a good place to put up a job listing. Natasha also informs him that there are many types of posts on the board, ranging from hiring staff to temporary work. In the end, Ryo says he'll just think about it first, and Natasha understands, not pressuring him to do anything. Ryo exits the guild and goes back to his food cart, thinking that he needs to prepare for tomorrow, though finding a staff is just as important. But he soon forgets about all of this when he locks eyes with a certain girl slumped behind the cart. He can hear her stomach growling, and after a beat, Ryo asks if she's okay. The rugged girl couldn't thank Ryo enough for helping her out. She introduces herself as Sarah, then thanks him again, crying as she munches on the croissant our hero gave her. Ryo tells her to take it slow since there's more from where that came from. Speaking of where, why was Sarah in a place like that anyway? And from the looks of it, it doesn't look like she has any luggage either. To that she shyly relays that she's from a remote village called Triot and came to Solon because she admired the city. However, on the way here she lost everything to bandits and swindlers. Poor Sarah managed to get into the city, but once inside she got lost and didn't know what to do. Since it's also pretty late, she couldn't find work and has no place to stay the night. The girl really had it bad. She was thinking of going to the guild to look for work tomorrow, but her concern for tonight is finding a suitable place to stay. Upon hearing all that, Ryo uses this chance to introduce himself and explain that he just recently founded a trading company by selling bread at this stall. He offers help, so Sarah quickly jumps at the opportunity, asking a slightly improper request to let her work for him so she could repay his kindness. Great timing. Ryo is actually looking for staff, so he's pretty happy to have her work under him. Sarah's face instantly lights up, thanking him as she promises to do her very best. Great, he's excited to work with her tomorrow, but for now, Ryo will cover for her lodging and rent an extra room where she can stay the night. The next day, Ryo says they should begin by first explaining the stall, while Sarah is already eager to learn. For starters, the toast costs 200 krona per piece, while the croissant sells at 100 krona per piece. Looking at the goods, Sarah remembers how delicious they were yesterday, but wait, oh my god. She can't believe she ate so much of the merchandise. Ryo assures her that it's fine since he can always make bread with magic. Wait, what? Magic? Sarah stares as Ryo puts up both of his hands and conjures a croissant out of thin air. Holy hell, this is impossible. She looks at him incredulous because how could he create bread with magic? Ryo, on the other hand, is confused. Did he do something strange? To that, Sarah answers that everything is strange. Is he not aware of the law of the impossibility of magical food? Obviously, he doesn't know since he's an outsider, but Sarah goes ahead and explains that no skill or magic can create food. Sure, there's magic that accelerates crop growth, but to make bread and food as they are, no one's ever heard of that before. Ryo looks forlorn because he did make it, you know? Sarah saw it, we all saw it. But that's exactly the reason why Sarah is so shocked in the first place. Anyway, she's curious about this skill. What's it called again? Ryo answers that it's a skill called stall, and even Sarah has never heard of that kind of skill before. Our hero goes on about how he can also use various kinds of magic, pulling up his status screen to show a list of other things he can make. Oh, and what do you know? Cooking magic was also added just recently. Sarah can't believe this person is right next to her. It's so amazing to have these skill sets. Meanwhile, Ryo suggests they try making meat this time. He puts both hands out and imagines meat, and voila, pork really materialized out of nothing. Looking at the marbling on the meat, Sarah comments how this is the first time she has seen pork of such high quality. It's on par with premium orc meat. Huh. Is that so? But for Ryo, this is just ordinary pork meat. Well, it seems that this world considers it a luxury item. No. Anyway, it's about time he tries cooking magic now. Out of nowhere, he conjures a plate along with the juiciest burger patty in existence. Sarah moves closer asking what that is, so he explains that it's a dish called hamburg, urging her to taste it. She can't believe Ryo is giving her free rein over this, but okay, she'll start eating. She cuts off a small portion, and as soon as she bites into it, Sarah swoons at how delicious it is. This is so amazing. It's so amazing that she says even the Lord himself couldn't eat something so delicious. Ryo is happy to hear that, and even Sarah knows that this hamburg dish will sell very well. But no, Ryo says they're going to add a small twist, making Sarah frown a little. What does he mean by that? With a smirk, Ryo says they'll use this hamburg to make a hamburger. The two did a little quick shopping for some extra ingredients and basic cooking tools. He turns to Sarah, finally asking for help. With his creation magic, Ryo makes ketchup, burger buns, tomatoes, and lettuce. He slices the tomatoes and puts them along with the hamburg on the bun, as well as lettuce, and voila! The hamburger is complete. Both of them eat their own respective burgers, with Ryo satisfied with his work. This is absolutely perfect. Sarah couldn't agree more as she tells him that selling something like this at a street stall is practically a historic event. Alright, now that the taste test is done, they should start preparing today's merchandise right away. But before that, Ryo warns her not to sneak bites without permission. Sarah promises she won't, but that's a pretty hurtful accusation. Little did they know that an older gentleman had been sneakily watching them from the street corner and watched everything unfold. The older gentleman returns to the castle, informing Lord Cerrito of his arrival. This Lord Cerrito asks the former how the stall in question is. The older gentleman reports that they were preparing an unfamiliar dish made from pork and bread. Oh, this piqued Lord Cerrito's interest even more, as he says he wants to taste it. He asks Modon, the older gentleman, if he could bring the cook to him next time. As soon as Ryo's humble stall opened for the day, his customers were quick to order the newest addition to the menu, which was the hamburger. A young lady is the first to receive the order, and as soon as she takes a bite, she can't believe how tasty it is. The intense richness of the meat and the sauce. Even the older man beside her couldn't believe they were able to make such a concentrated tomato sauce. The girl goes on about how she never knew good food existed like this in this world. Both Ryo and Sarah are happy to hear such positive reviews, as the girl continues to order 2 more hamburgers. Hearing the young lady's glowing and loud review made the others curious about this hamburger too. A second later, people were putting in multiple orders, and soon enough, Ryo had sold out for the day. They bid their last customer goodbye, with the latter promising to come back tomorrow. Just then, the older gentleman appears and asks if the shop is selling hamburgers. Ryo quickly notices that the gentleman has a refined aura overflowing with dignity. Be that as it may, they're sold out for the day, so he tells the older man that they're already closed. The gentleman doesn't insist, so Ryo just tells him to come back another time. It was obvious that the former became a little depressed, muttering about how he'll report this to his master. At the mention of that, Sarah looks up and finally sees the gentleman. She quickly moves past Ryo, putting on her most pleasing smile as she apologizes and asks what the older man's business with them is. Our hero was about to speak when Sarah's hand flew so fast to cover his mouth, telling Ryo that she needed to speak with the older man. Again, she wears her business smile, asking what his request is. At that, he finally introduces himself as Modon, the chief butler of Lord Cerrito. The said lord has expressed a desire to taste a hamburger and would like to invite them to the castle. Before Ryo could finish asking who Lord Cerrito is, Sarah elbowed him so hard, finding it hard to believe that Lord Cerrito actually said that. Modon finds himself concerned for poor Ryo, who was almost knocked out by what Sarah did, but he'll be fine. Sarah assured him so. Since everything's settled, Modon tells them that he'll come visit again tomorrow, with Sarah saying they'll be waiting for him. As soon as he was gone, her shoulders slumped, admitting how she got really nervous back there. She apologizes for acting so roughly, but she is annoyed because Ryo is the one at fault. The clueless Ryo had no idea what he did, and he also doesn't know who this Lord Cerrito is. Sarah tells him that Lord Cerrito is the ruler of the castle over there and is the lord of the Fostria region, including the city of Solon. Upon hearing that, Ryo paled because this Lord Cerrito is that powerful. Heck, is he the most powerful person in the land? Sarah confirms that's correct, and if you anger the Lord, then he won't be able to live in the city. Besides, Sarah says Lord Cerrito is like a father to her own father. Okay, now that confused Ryo, what did she mean by that? So Sarah finally confesses that her father is actually a baron and governs the village, which makes him under Lord Cerrito's territory. Ryo's jaw almost dropped because does this mean Sarah is a noble? So does that mean she's Lady Sarah? To that she answers that it's just a title in name only, and asks him to stop calling her that. Anyway, Sarah continues that the nobles of the Kingdom of Ireland receive their lands from the king, and it's only natural for them to be under the influence of stronger nobles in the region. Oh, now that she puts it like that, Ryo finally understands that she's the daughter of the village lord. But titles aside, he asks if it's really okay for her to work at a place like this. Sarah feels appalled at the question, like what is he even saying? Of course it's fine, Ryo is her lifesaver after all. She's about to add something else but trails off, leaving Ryo echoing the last few words she said. Sarah suddenly bows and tells him it's nothing, adding that she's looking forward to working with him from here on out. Ryo is more than happy to have her by his side, but for now it's best to think about what they should do about Lord Cerrito's invitation. The topic forced Sarah to regain her composure as she finally stepped up for the role. Since she learned proper etiquette and all the necessary manners at home, she volunteers to handle this whole matter, promising that everything will be fine. If it's like that, Ryo is more than happy to leave it in Sarah's capable hands. So for now, she suggests they buy some proper clothes that won't be disrespectful, leaving Ryo a little drained already. The two went around the city exploring places while also canvassing cooking materials. Finally, they reached Orphan's workwear shop, their last stop. Sarah suggests they buy the best cooking clothes at the shop, though Ryo is a bit hesitant since he has no idea what's suitable for the occasion. Just then, Sarah spots a chef's outfit on display, but upon checking the price tag, they feel their heads reeling a bit because the whole outfit costs 70,000 krona. Well, Ryo understands that it's a pretty hefty price tag, but he has no choice, he'll take it. He tells the shop owner to tailor 2 sets of the chef's outfit. Sarah is shocked because Ryo is ordering 2 sets. She feels guilty about how Ryo is spending all that money on her. She even says she'll prepare her own clothes that are much cheaper. To that, Ryo points out that she's working just as hard as he is, so it's fine. Still, Sarah feels guilty about how expensive it is. He assures her that it's fine, and what he only asks in return is that he'll count on her when they go to Lord Cerrito's castle. Well, if he insists, then Sarah has no choice but to accept and thank him for this. She promises to take good care of the chef's outfit. With that, they have everything they need. Starting tomorrow, Sarah says they'll begin studying etiquette and proper conduct. On the way home, she tells him how much she enjoyed shopping together today, and even Ryo admits that he did too. It even almost looked like a date, no? At least Ryo thinks so, but nah, he's just kidding. Little did he know that those words alone stirred Sarah's heart, leaving her flustered as she asked him to stop saying nonsense. She walks ahead saying they need to hurry back, while Ryo jogs to catch up to her. He was so engrossed in catching up to her that he failed to hear that ping, informing him that a new skill had been learned. Finally, Ryo and Sarah stand before the imposing castle wearing their matching chef's outfits. Even as a noble, Sarah feels a bit nervous, but it's Ryo who says that at least they did everything they needed to do. Mondo appears and tells them he'll guide them to where Lord Cerrito is, instructing the two to follow him. The older man stops before a pair of double doors, turning to them to say that Lord Cerrito is opening on the opposite side. Then Mondo announces the arrival of the chef, while from the other side of the door they hear someone urge them in. Ryo apologizes for troubling Lord Cerrito, while the latter introduces himself with a smile. What's more, the latter feels apologetic for summoning them so suddenly. Ryo introduces himself as the president of the Sato Trading Company, and thanks Lord Cerrito for inviting them. The nobleman only laughs, telling Ryo to ease up, there's no need to be so formal, you know. Anyway, Lord Cerrito speaks about the hamburgers he has heard so much about. It's become the talk of the town after all, and even the servants of the castle speak so highly of those burgers that Lord Cerrito himself wanted to try one. Ryo is happy to hear that everyone's been talking highly of his products, but in his mind he's actually more pleased that this Lord Cerrito guy seems like a friendly person. Speaking of the hamburgers, Lord Cerrito said he was so excited about the dish that he hadn't even eaten anything today yet. With that, he's eager to taste this renowned hamburger of Ryo's. The latter agrees and says they'll start preparing right away. Our hero extends his hand, intent on using the magic he learned recently, starting with summoning the food cart. You see, after he has leveled up, our MC is now able to create new materials, so with these, he can make it. He turns to Sarah and asks her to do the preparations, which she dutifully obliges. Ryo uses food cart multiplication, then uses form change. The stall instantly became a kitchen. First he uses storage magic to take out the ingredients to make the sauce, and soon enough he's done with the special teriyaki sauce. Next he works on the side dishes. He pulls out the potatoes he prepared with magic, then deep fries them in hot oil. After they're cooked, Ryo sprinkles salt on them, and with that the freshly fried french fries are done. Lastly, he pours the special sauce generously on the burger, and plates the food beautifully. With that he presents the special hamburger set to Lord Cerrito. The nobleman eyes the unfamiliar dish curiously, since it's something he has never seen before. Mondo appears on his side with some cutlery, but Lord Cerrito refuses it. From what he heard, this is a dish that you eat with your hands, isn't it? He eagerly picks up the hamburger, saying he'll try eating it the way they normally do. As soon as he takes his first bite, his brows furrow, followed by an unreadable expression passing over his face. Uh-oh. Both Ryo and Sarah low-key start to panic, because what do? Does he not like the taste? But just as suddenly, the young lord proclaims that the food is delicious. This is the first time he has ever tasted something delicious like this. Plus, this richly flavored sauce got him curious, turning to Ryo to ask what it is. Our MC simply explains that it's a sauce called soy sauce made from soybeans. Lord Cerrito continues eating, amazed that you can actually make something like that from soybeans. Now moving on to the french fries, the dish that also piqued the lord's interest. Ryo urges him to give it a try too. Lord Cerrito takes a small bite of the seemingly ordinary potatoes, but boy was he wrong. The outside is crispy and the inside is amazingly fluffy. He can't help but ask how Ryo was able to cook it that way. Well, all Ryo did was fry the potatoes in oil and sprinkle them with salt. As usual, Lord Cerrito is impressed because he never knew just doing that could make potatoes so delicious. Speaking of deliciousness, Lord Cerrito also finds the tomato sauce flavor irresistible, just like the other citizens. After a little while, Lord Cerrito finished his burger, so Ryo offered to make him another serving. Of course, the former is quick to take him up on his offer, and while he's at it, he also wants another serving of those fries too. Before long, the young lord's appetite is finally satisfied. He beams because everything turned out to be truly delicious. Ryo and Sarah are also smiling, happy to see that he enjoyed the meal they made. Now then, to business. Honestly speaking, the young lord finds the ingredients pretty ordinary. However, the quality is so high that common folk couldn't obtain them. Plus, there's also Ryo's cooking methods that he has never seen before, prompting the young lord to ask where he acquired such techniques and ingredients. Before Ryo could answer, Sarah stepped in and told him that anything beyond that would be a trade secret of their major trading company. With that said, she refuses to answer the nobleman's query. Well, even Lord Cerrito agrees to that, because if they revealed that, it would lose its commercial value. He apologizes, then returns to the main topic. After treating him to such delicious food, Lord Cerrito says he'd like to grant Ryo some kind of reward, asking our MC what he would like. Since Ryo treated Lord Cerrito to something wonderful, he'd like to reward our hero with something. So he asks Ryo what he would like. Our hero starts stuttering and confesses that he'd like to quit working from a food cart and open his own shop. That's the endgame, but what he needs to make that happen hasn't been decided yet. With that said, he just tells Lord Cerrito that he'll answer that question again when he's ready. Ho, the young lord only hums in reply, and with a smile he decides to just give Ryo a little something. Lord Cerrito orders Modon to bring the seal, and the older man hesitates, asking if that was really necessary. The lord of the castle answers that Ryo is trustworthy. His source, his intuition says so. If that's the case, the butler didn't ask anymore and proceeded to fetch the seal. After a little while he returns with a little chest and asks Ryo to take good care of it. Our MC opens the box and it's just as they said, it really is a seal. He looks at it funnily and Modon could understand his confusion given that if he's not from the Fostria region then he wouldn't know of this item. Lord Cerrito just smiles and tells Ryo to ask about it at the Merchants Guild later, which the latter says he will. With that, Ryo turns to Sarah saying they should head back now, but his companion is too focused on the seal, jaw-dropped. She points at the seal saying how it's an incredibly dangerous item. Ryo has no idea, wondering if he actually received something so amazing. Sarah's comment caught the attention of Lord Cerrito, and as he looked at her there was a look of recognition. He remembers her asking if she was the daughter of Baron Estrand. At that, she perks up and affirms that it is correct, explaining that she's the second daughter of House Estrand. She's happy that the Lord remembers her, and of course he does. From what he remembers, she was also there at his appointment ceremony. He grows impressed seeing how she's now part of the Sato Trading Company. Lord Cerrito stands and approaches them saying that he owes Baron Estrand a great deal, so if anything should happen, he tells them to rely on him. More importantly, Lord Cerrito asks them to come again to make hamburgers and fries for him, which the two say they're more than happy to do. Just like that, their visit to Lord Cerrito's castle wrapped up. On their way home, both Ryo and Sarah slump in the back seat, completely drained from their meeting with the noble. Still, they didn't expect Lord Cerrito to be such a kind person, and it seems he liked the hamburgers they made too. Anyway, that thing they were talking about earlier, the seal. Ryo asks if it was really something amazing. It looks just like an ordinary seal from his perspective. Sarah snaps back to attention, telling him that it's not an ordinary seal, it's the seal of the Fostria family. Well, it's kind of hard to explain, but for starters, it's not something an ordinary merchant company could ever possess. She says any merchant in the city would desperately want it because once it's stamped, it's treated as one of the most important matters in the Fostria region. With that said, the Fostria family takes full responsibility for it. Ryo's brows furrow as he asks if Lord Cerrito will step in if something happens. When he puts it like that, Sarah says that's true. This also means that Ryo can't just use it however he likes, because if he were to make some strange contract, it would stain the reputation of the Fostria family, or worse, it could even put his life at risk. Oh, so the seal's value lies in simply possessing it. It's proof that you have the backing of the Fostria family. Now that he knows everything there is to know about the seal, this just makes Ryo wonder if it's really okay for someone like him to have it. Sarah smiles, thinking that if Lord Cerrito has given it to him, then it should be fine. Well, if she says it like that, then it should be fine to accept this for now. Anyway, he suggests they head to the Merchants Guild soon. He wants to consult them about opening a shop, which Sarah thinks is a great idea. Their work is done for today, and he suggests they take the day off tomorrow since the past few days have been pretty hectic. Back at Lord Cerrito's castle, Mondo asks his master if he made the right choice to give the seal to Ryo. The young lord is certain he made the right decision. The latter also notes how all of the dishes Ryo served were things he had never seen before, which made Lord Cerrito believe that Ryo is connected to lands they don't have information on. What's more, he believes that if our hero continues to grow like this, he'll bring prosperity to the city. Most importantly, Lord Cerrito's intuition still tells him to help Ryo. When the young lord acts according to his intuition, things usually turn out well, and it has saved him many times before. Even Modon himself knows that, right? The butler finally speaks and says if it's what Lord Cerrito says, then it must be true. Lastly, the fries and ketchup were incredibly delicious. If Ryo doesn't open a shop soon, then Lord Cerrito won't be able to eat those fries anymore. The mere thought of it is enough to make him crave those dishes again. Lord Cerrito goes on about the harmony between the fries and ketchup. If he could eat that whenever he wanted, then he'd do anything. His butler can only sigh, asking the young lord to stop venting his personal cravings like this. The next day, Ryo and Sarah meet at the Merchants Guild, with the latter carrying a few documents tucked under her arm. Ryo greets her with a good morning, asking if she had enough rest for the night, which she says she did. He's pleased to hear that, and for today's agenda he'd like to hear about the sales report and the opening of the shop. Sarah is just happy to be there, seeing how everything is finally coming together. Once inside, Natasha greets them, already awaiting their arrival. After all, rumors of a certain burger shop have already reached the guild. Sarah introduces herself as one of the staff of Sato Trading Company, with Natasha noting how she had already heard of the former. Actually, that's not the only thing Natasha has heard. Word got around that the two of them were invited to Lord Cerrito's castle too. Anyway, for today's sales report, Natasha leads them to another room, urging them to step inside. As soon as they stepped in, the guild staff quickly explained that the meeting room is equipped with soundproof magic, so they shouldn't be worried about information leaking. As soon as all three of them are settled, Natasha asks for the account books, which Sarah gladly hands over. Natasha flips through their records and frowns upon finding out that the ingredients weren't purchased, so she asks Sarah for clarification about some things. For starters, the expenses are pretty low, so she asks if this is not a problem for the shop. Sarah, on the other hand, assures her that there's no mistake in the figures listed in the ledger. With the calculation skill, which increases the ability to process calculations, she made sure to check it multiple times. Be that as it may, Natasha tells her that at this level of commerce, they shouldn't be able to continue. In fact, the guild may even need to investigate some cases. Hearing the two ladies talk this out, Ryo adds that there are actually certain circumstances. In his mind, they hardly need to buy anything because of his stall skill. Of course, Natasha has no knowledge of this, which makes sense that she doesn't understand any of this. Anyway, Sarah turns to him asking what they should do, as she panics if that gets found out. Seeing them stressing over something, Natasha steps in and assures them that if they're worried about information leaking, the Merchants Guild is an organization independent of the state and has strict confidentiality obligations. She adds that company information or information about Ryo will not be passed on to the kingdom or to the nobility. Well, if it's like that, Ryo finally comes clean and shares his secret. After hearing about Ryo's stall skill, even Natasha finds the skill pretty extraordinary, which also clears things up. With that said, she promises to keep this matter strictly confidential. However, she'll have to report this to the guildmaster. With that matter settled, Natasha proceeds with computing the shop's profit, which is 4,840,000 krona. Since they'll be paying 30% of the profits, Ryo is now promoted to 4th-rank merchant. Natasha gets up and fetches a small box, showing him the badge of a 4th-rank merchant inside. From here on out, she asks Ryo to keep working hard. That's nice to hear and all that, but Ryo has no idea what it means to be a 4th-rank merchant. Like, what do they even do? Natasha almost drops the badge out of shock, but regains her composure as she begins to explain. According to her, merchants are ranked by how much money they contribute to the Merchants Guild. Since Ryo's rank is higher, more trust is given to him as a merchant. Oh, if it's like that, then this just means the chances of making a profit increase too. He promises to do his best, and since he's already here, there's also something he'd like to consult with her about. Here's the thing. Ryo is considering owning a shop soon, so to do that, what does he need to do? Natasha ponders for a bit and tells him that he needs quite a bit of preparation and capital. First, there's the shop's rent, and then there are the wages for hiring staff. There's also the interior setup costs and kitchen equipment, and lastly, savings to last until the business stabilizes. Those are roughly the requirements, according to Natasha. Furthermore, she tells him that the guild can offer a loan, but since his company was founded only a month ago, they can only lend him around 1 million krona. Given the requirements, it looks like they can't set up shop now, but wait a minute, since they're on the topic of loans, Ryo has an idea. He starts fumbling through his pockets and asks Natasha if he could use this being the seal he previously received from Lord Cerrito. Can he use it here? Natasha leans over and recognizes that it's the seal of the Fostria family. Wait a minute, a seal? She suddenly stands and falls over, shocked at the item before her because what the heck? Ryo and Sarah are quick to run to her side and see if she's okay, but the guild staff is more concerned as to why Ryo has something like that. Most importantly, she tells him to return it immediately, with Ryo quickly taking it back and closing the lid of the chest. As she returns to her seat, Natasha can't believe that Ryo is the bearer of the seal. Mind you, he's just a newly established company. For a company to possess something like that is completely unheard of. Anyway, back to business. Natasha tells him that if he uses the seal, he could borrow money with virtually no collateral and no upper limit. However, she warns him that if a contract made with it were to tarnish the name of the Fostria family, then he would lose his status as a merchant, and there would be no guarantee for his life. Generally speaking, the seal isn't something meant to be used in practice. Listening to her like this is like deja vu for Ryo, because didn't Sarah say something like this to him before? Well, if the seal is practically unusable, Ryo asks what the point of being the bearer of the seal is. Natasha says that since the Sato Trading Company is growing rapidly, there may be people who look upon it with hostility. But as long as he carries the seal, no one will dare to lay a hand on him easily because it's proof that the Fostria family stands behind him. Upon hearing that, Ryo makes a note to thank Lord Cerrito for that. Anyway, Natasha also highlights that despite the scary things she said before, being the bearer of the seal is a tremendous honor for a merchant. Hearing all this just makes Ryo realize that he's been put in charge of something truly remarkable. On the other hand, as a guild staff member, Natasha promises to do everything she can to support him and looks forward to working with Ryo from now on. Ryo shares the sentiment, admitting that he also feels the same. At the tavern, Rio and Sara share a drink celebrating Sato Trade Company's promotion. Sara takes a sip of the beer and finds it's to her liking, while he tells her the foam is all over her mouth. Just then the waitress arrives with their food, with both of them wide-mouthed at how delicious the food looks. Sara takes a bite and relishes the food. She never even thought she could eat this much when she first came here. Looking at her happily eating, Rio can't believe that it's been a whole month since they met. Time sure does fly fast, no? Remembering it now, even she couldn't believe how lost and confused she was back then. Just recalling it made her feel grateful for how she even got to work like this. In his mind, Rio also never imagined he'd suddenly be teleported to another world. Coming into this world without understanding a thing is practically a miracle. When he thinks about it, he doesn't know how he managed this past month without Sara by his side. If it were just him, he's pretty sure things wouldn't have gone this well at all. Now that he remembers it, there's something he needs to give to Sara. He rummages through his pocket and hands her this month's bonus. After all, they earned a lot more than he expected. Sara can't believe it, feeling hesitant since she already received her salary earlier, but Rio assures her that it's fine as she drops the small money bag in her hand. She checks how much it is, and is he for real? Is he really okay with giving her this much? To justify this amount, Rio details how much he relied entirely on Sara when they met with Lord Cerrito. If it were just him, he knows he would have definitely failed, which is why he believes Sara deserves this much money for her efforts. Sara happily receives it, promising to work even harder from here on out. Rio laughs and tells her there's no need to push herself too hard. As the second round of beer arrives, Rio asks her something a little personal. Why did she obtain the calculation skill? To that she goes on about how she read a lot of books ever since she was just a little girl. Before she even realized it, she came to love learning. They say childhood experiences influence the skills you gain, which probably explains how she got the calculation skill in the first place. Oh, so that explains why she came to Solon to use her skill. And Rio happens just to be at the right place at the right time to pick her up then. Now that they talked about her, Sara is curious if Rio also has a dream. For Sara, she already achieved her goal, but how about Rio? Does he have a dream? Well, for him, he wants to have his own shop. But that question makes him wonder what he really wants to do in this world. He's been thinking of running a restaurant, but why is that? After all, he came here without a plan, but he still wants to do work that makes everyone smile. Finally, he answers Sara's question. Since coming here, he has only been fighting to survive, but now he's made up his mind. He wants to visit many places, open shops in different cities, and make the Sato company much bigger. With that said, he needs Sara's strength. The question is, will she work with him? Of course, she happily obliges, extending her hand, promising to make the Sato company even bigger together. They shook hands with Rio, saying they should start by opening a shop in Solon. At least that's what Rio had in mind. The next day, Kane came bowing to him, on his knees with his forehead on the ground, begging our hero to make him his disciple. Rio and Sara look over this boy, bowing over them, begging Rio to let him become our hero's disciple. The former looks on, wondering just how things ended up like this, when suddenly Kane gets on his feet and clutches both of Ryo's hands. He's still insisting on letting him work with them, while our hero's actually only recognizing him now as Auntie Rosa's nephew from before. Kane reintroduces himself again intensely, so Rio has to tell him to chill a little bit. First of all, our hero asks why Kane suddenly decided to become Ryo's disciple. At that, the younger man clarifies that he didn't do this on a whim, he thought about it for a long time. Speaking of, our hero is reminded of Kane being a cook at the inn. What will happen about his job then? Kane tells them up front that he already quit and even brought a letter from his hand, handing it over to Rio. Our hero opens the letter and reads about Auntie Rosa thanking him for the bread. According to her, Kane has been going on about how Kane has been wanting to work with Rio, asking the latter if he would allow the older lady's nephew to give him a chance. She goes on vouching for Ryo's talent while also asking our hero to take good care of him. After reading the letter, it was Sara who asked why Kane wanted to work with Rio. The latter answers that he was deeply impressed with Ryo's hamburger. With twinkling eyes, he rambles on about how he never thought there was a way to cook meat like that. Plus, he was amazed at the idea of putting it inside bread too. Kane wants to learn many other techniques, which is why he wants to become a chef like Rio, calling him master. Looking at the guy, it makes Rio think that if they're going to open shop someday, then they really need people with enthusiasm like Kane's. Rio acknowledges Kane's feelings, making the younger man perk up. But first, Rio wants to know the other's skill level. He wants to see Rio's talent that Auntie Rosa bragged about in the letter. Kane is more than happy to show off his skills, so they kicked it off straight away. Rio gives him all the ingredients and wants Kane to make a hamburger out of them. The latter quickly notices how these are all quality ingredients, while Rio asks if he has enough tools to make the dish. Kane says these are more than enough and quickly gets to work, chopping the vegetables at lightning speed, leaving both Sara and Rio impressed. Before they realized it, the younger man was already putting the hamburger together, and voila, it's finally done. They do a taste test and Sara commends Kane's fast and flawless workmanship, on top of his delicious burger. The arrangement of the filling and the ketchup spread is also perfect. There's not a single fault in his work, at least according to her. Rio, on the other hand, is still hung up on how fast Kane worked. Is that really even possible? To that, the younger man shares that he possesses the cooking skill, which increases his cooking speed and tasting magic. However, he's also quick to add that he's still at a pretty low level, which is why this is all he can do for now. Ryo finds the younger man's talent impressive, especially with how he was able to create a complete hamburger with such speed and precision. He's practically ready for the next step. In fact, he's even faster than Ryo, so with that our hero extends his hand as he welcomes Kane as the newest member of the Sato company. Overwhelmed with emotion, Kane starts tearing up and quickly takes Ryo's hand in his as he thanks our hero for the opportunity. Speaking of Ryo, he also adds that Kane is not his disciple, just to clear things up, okay? With another companion added to the Sato company, they have just taken another step forward. Ryo is also happy because having someone skilled at cooking is essential for their work. This saves them a lot of trouble. Speaking of cooking, there's one thing bugging Sarah's mind. Isn't Ryo's cooking magic enough as it is? Well, it is true that Ryo can indeed make hamburgers using his cooking magic, but that skill of his has a major drawback. Eh? Sarah is surprised because did she hear him right? Did he just say his skill had a drawback? At the stall, Ryo extends his hand and conjures the ingredients out of thin air. Since this was his first time seeing it, poor Kane almost short-circuited, as he found it hard to believe that ingredients came out of the food cart. Ryo calmly explains that this is his skill, while Sarah is curious if his skill really has a drawback. The former affirms that and shows them the said drawback. He extends both of his hands on the ingredients, and poof, it became a single burger patty. Sarah finally gets it now, all those ingredients and yet it turned into just one patty. That's exactly what worries Ryo because he found out that using his cooking magic consumes a large amount of materials. Even in terms of volume, it decreases a lot, and looking at it long term, that loss can't be ignored. When he puts it like that, even Sarah agrees that it really is inefficient. Suddenly, Kane's hand shoots up in the air as he asks Ryo a question. Couldn't they just sell the ingredients as they are? At least with that, there wouldn't be any waste, and it's a pretty good idea. But no sooner had those words come out of his mouth than both Ryo and Sarah narrowed their eyes at him. She begins by saying that if they did that, it would cause trouble for the farmers and other merchants. Kane doesn't understand, so she explains further by posing a question between Ryo's vegetables and the other merchants' vegetables, which would Kane buy given that Ryo's vegetables are also much cheaper. The latter answers that of course he would buy Ryo's vegetables. They're cheap and quality ingredients after all. Well, in Ryo's case, he can create ingredients out of nothing with his skill. With that said, it wouldn't just put the other merchants into trouble, it could collapse the whole market, which is why the vegetables can't be sold as they are. Kane finally gets it now, but Sarah isn't done with her explanation. If Ryo took this seriously, then he could practically make all the farmers in the country lose their jobs. Capitalism and monogamy at their finest. Well, that's a pretty extreme example, but it's still true. With all that said, Ryo doesn't want to use his skill in a way that harms others, which is why he wants to create hamburgers without using his skill. Okay, Kane finally gets it now, just as Ryo tells him that he'd like to entrust the cooking to Kane. Upon hearing that, the latter beams. He's happy to do so and promises to do his best, which is pretty much a lifesaver for Ryo. Cut to 2 weeks later, the highly awaited yet humble hamburger stall has a long line of customers waiting for their food. Thanks to Kane's skill, they were able to create multiple burgers quickly. He's seen it before, but Ryo remains amazed at how fast the younger man is, while the latter is happy to hear praises from his master. Little does Kane know, even Ryo finds him being able to talk in the middle of work pretty impressive. Just then, the two boys hear a familiar voice call out to them. It was Auntie Rosa. The elder lady asks how her nephew is faring. Kane, on the other hand, panics at seeing his aunt, but Auntie only barks at him to get back to work. Ryo tells the older woman how he finds Kane's skill pretty amazing and that he has become an important asset to the company. The elder lady just laughs, thinking that Ryo's just buttering up to her. But our hero insists that it's not, especially not after seeing Kane's skill up close. Hearing Ryo speak of her nephew like that pleases Auntie Rosa. You see, the kid's parents were adventurers, and ever since they've gone, she's been the one looking after Kane and acting as his guardian. She may sound rough when talking to him, but deep down Auntie cares for her nephew. Oh, talking about Kane got the older lady all sappy, prompting her to apologize to Ryo for talking about it so much. But our hero is more than happy to listen to her stories. And yeah, even Auntie Rosa admits that seeing her nephew at work puts her at ease. With that, she entrusts Kane to Ryo's care, then just as quickly asks for the usual bread order. Much later that day, things had finally calmed down just as Sarah returned. She informs them that she managed to get an appointment with the Merchants Guild. And since their sales have increased so much as of late, Natasha also agreed as well. Ryo's face brightens up, while Kane has no idea what's happening, so he asks the former what the two were talking about. At that, Ryo tells him that they'll finally open the Sato Company store, their very own shop. Fast forward 2 days later, Ryo begins the agenda, which is the plan to open the Sato Company store at the management meeting. Now then, with all 4 of them seated, the management meeting of Sato Trading Company begins. Since Ryo and Sarah want to hear the union's opinion, they invited Natasha to attend. Sarah begins by asking Ryo what kind of shop he wants to create. Our MC details that he wants the shop to be a relatively large shop where people can eat inside. Sales from the stalls are doing very well right now, so he believes that it's only natural that they cater to the high demand. However, if the shop is too small, he thinks it would be difficult for regular customers to come by often. With that said, he asks if anyone else has an opinion of what he said. Kane is the first to comment, expressing his wish to be able to cook lots of food, so he doesn't care what kind of shop it is. Well, Ryo already expected this much out of him, and it's only befitting for a chef. Unlike him, Sarah has some concerns over this. Since this will be Ryo's first shop, she suggests they start with a small one, like a takeout-only shop. At least with that, they won't have to worry about congestion. Ryo admits that that's a good option, but he personally insists on a shop where customers can eat inside. In the end, he'd like to see the customers' faces himself, after all. This time it's Natasha who points out that if they plan on opening a big shop, then they would need a lot of waiters. If that's the case, wouldn't labor costs balloon because of that? Wait, what? Waiters? Natasha reiterates what she said and explains that waiters are people who take and order food. Well, Ryo was about to say something but caught himself. Wait a minute. Could it be that the shop he's imagining is different from the one they have in mind? Ryo explains that the shop he's envisioning won't have any waiters. Instead, they'll set up something called a cashier counter where customers order and pay at the same time. Sarah finally gets the idea. This just means the customer will carry the food themselves, no? It's just as she said. Now that Ryo thinks about it carefully, this is practically a different world altogether. A world where fast food restaurant systems don't exist. Back to the meeting. Both ladies finally envision how Ryo's shop won't need waiters at all, and with his approach they can run a large shop without any problems. Natasha mutters to herself about this new style of shop and finds it amazing. Plus, with Ryo's stall skill, even if the setup costs are a bit high, they should be able to make big profits. Suddenly she becomes passionate, asking Ryo to let her help them carry out their plans. Of course, Ryo is not one to turn down help when offered. The guild staff proceeds to tell them that there's actually a vacant property that's a perfect fit for their shop, asking them if they would like to see it. Ryo loves to do so, while Natasha turns to Sarah, informing her that their rent is 4 million krona plus interior renovation costs. The latter already expected such an amount and says that it's within their budget range. Now for the interior, Natasha thinks commissioning Dahlhoff Trading Company would be a good choice. They're known as the top construction company in Solon and are considered third-rank merchants. Again, she offers to them if they would like to introduce Ryo to the Dahlhoff Trading Company this time, and the latter is pretty much obliged. For the renovation budget, Sarah tells Natasha that she could go ahead and inform the Dahlhoff Trading Company that their budget is 15 million krona, which the latter says she would. Natasha then hands them the property plans and the key to the property. Now that the future direction has been decided, Ryo says they should go and see this property. A few days later, the trio arrives at the property Natasha was talking about. Surprisingly, it's a bit larger than Sarah expected, but for Ryo it looks just right. A moment later, they hear an unfamiliar voice comment on how the building is truly splendid. A stout man with a bushy beard appears, introducing himself as Dahlhoff of the Dahlhoff Trading Company. Right next to him is his assistant, a girl named Yule. Ryo and Sarah approach them, with Ryo introducing himself as the president of Sato Trading Company. Upon hearing that, the older man beams because finally he met this Ryo that everyone has been talking about. Oh, Ryo is the talk of the town? Wait, what does Dahlhoff mean by that? The older man only laughs, telling Ryo that he should know what that means by now. News of our hero becoming a seal bearer in a month has already reached Dahlhoff's ears too. Upon remembering that, Ryo feels a little embarrassed, but he adds that it's also a great honor. Just as quickly, Dahlhoff goes into business mode. The older man heard that this project includes many special requests, so he promised to do everything they can to carry out Ryo's wishes, just as the two men shook hands. Their group of 5 enters the building as they begin the actual inspection. Dahlhoff asks what the floor area is, and Yule answers that it's approximately 200 square meters. Kane is impressed at how she did that, with the older man telling them that it's because of Yule's skills that they can take measurements easily. Continuing with the inspection, Dahlhoff asks about the general layout that they want. To that, Sarah answers that on the first floor they want a cooking area and a serving counter. Then on the second floor she wants to set up an office. Dahlhoff turns to Ryo and asks about the kitchen since he was already thinking of equipping the area with basic facilities. At the mention of that, our MC tells him that they won't need a stove or refrigerator, leaving the older man shocked. Why is that? Well, Ryo simply answers that it's because of his skill and shows Dahlhoff his summon stall. From there, Ryo turned it into kitchen form, leaving the Dahlhoff employees even more shocked. Dahlhoff cannot believe Ryo can create equipment using skills alone. How incredible. Meanwhile, our hero goes on and shows him that the bottom part is a magical storage, leaving Dahlhoff impressed at the built-in facilities. Now he understands why Lord Cerrito took a liking to him. Anyway, Ryo has a list of additional requests he'd like to make. A large oven, a meat grinder, and a large fryer capable of cooking massive quantities of food. Looking at the drawings, Dahlhoff notes how they never made things like that before, but from the looks of it, they seem pretty doable on his part. Ryo is pleased to hear that, already thanking the older man in advance. Now then, regarding the seating for customers, Dollhoff asks how many seats Ryo would like. The latter says he'd like to set up about 120 seats on the opposite side, and on the second floor, about 120. Dollhoff thinks that's too many, but our hero says that won't be a problem. With this amount of space, Ryo thinks that even if the number of seats increases a bit, it won't be an issue, as they are already looking forward to continued cooperation. Just then, Dollhoff approaches Ryo and tells him that he and Yule have prepared a preliminary cost estimate, and honestly speaking, it exceeds the budget by about 3 million krona, no matter how much they calculate it. Upon hearing that, the Sato Trading Company trio's faces were colored with panic. While holding the estimate in his hand, Dollhoff tells them that they're going to exceed the budget by around 3 million krona. Sarah checks the document, asking the older man if the minimum cost would be 18 million krona, and Dollhoff tells her that the official estimate will be released later, but he believes it could reach around 20 million. Upon hearing that, she turns to Ryo, saying she'll start revising the plan and return right away. He feels sorry for putting extra work on Sarah, feeling bad for not being good with accounting matters. But Sarah is energetic as ever and volunteers to take on the work. After all, this is exactly why she left the village in the first place. She promises to make sure the shop opening plan succeeds. Fast forward 3 days later, a letter arrives from the Dollhoff Trading Company, and even Kane knows it's the quotation price, suggesting they hand it over to Sarah ASAP. Sarah opens the letter, and it's just as Dollhoff said, the cost for interior renovation and equipment is 20 million krona. Ryo asks her if the revisions are going well. With a smile, she assures him that she managed to complete most of it over the past 3 days, even though it's been tough. All that's left for her to do is to adjust it based on Dollhoff's quotation. With that said, she suggests they discuss this with the Merchants Guild, and Ryo couldn't be more grateful to her. He says they should present it tomorrow, but before everything else, Sarah informs him that they will need to take out a loan from the guild. As of now, she tells him that they've reached the limit in terms of equipment, but Ryo only wonders if the guild will approve it. They entrust everything to Sarah while she vows to do everything she can. The next day at the Merchants Guild, Ryo asks her if she's alright, and Sarah says she is and that everything is ready. They head inside where they are welcomed by Natasha, who is already expecting them. Ryo tells her of today's agenda regarding the new plan, so as per last time, Natasha leads them to the meeting room. With everybody finally settled in their seats, Sarah begins by showing Natasha the documents she has been carrying. The latter takes it and flips through the pages, making small comments now and then, until finally she sees the company's request, a loan of 25 million krona. Natasha's brows furrow slightly at the amount, telling Sarah that she understands the contents of their plan. With that said, she has a few questions in mind. First, regarding the loan amount, Natasha finds the amount pretty high compared to the scale of the project. She asks if they couldn't just make use of their existing equipment instead. Sarah explains that the most important cooking tools for their business are custom-made, so to maintain and operate the shop properly, they can't compromise on that point. Next, the guild staff asks how they plan to repay the loan, assuming it is approved. Regarding that matter, Sarah shows her the sales record of the food cart so far, along with its customer turnover rate. She goes on about how she believes they'll be able to repay the loan steadily with interest. Natasha checks the documents and notes how Sarah is very meticulous about these matters. What's more, Sarah has also summarized the monthly repayment amounts, and even Natasha is impressed at how the repayment plan is very clear. However, in the worst-case scenario, the latter asks what they have for collateral. Sarah answers that they plan to compensate through in-kind repayment using the food cart skill. She goes on about how they will repay using the food products created through the skill if cash repayment becomes difficult. What's more, the food can also be preserved almost indefinitely using the same ability. Listening to her, even Natasha knows that the said solution is unique only to the Sato Trading Company. Continuing from what she last said, Sarah tells her that the guild won't incur any losses in that sense, and even Natasha has no objections to that. To add, Natasha also knows that Ryo is a seal bearer, even if the Sato Company owns no real estate or assets. If the Fostria family stands behind him as a guarantor, then that alone is more than sufficient security for the guild. With their plans laid out on the table, Sarah asks what Natasha thinks. After a beat, the latter says she has reviewed Sarah's plan and approves of it. Furthermore, she'll submit the request to the guildmaster ASAP, making Sarah beam. To add, since Ryo is the seal bearer, they don't have to worry because she thinks their application will go through smoothly. The trio couldn't be more thankful for Natasha hearing them out. Finally, the meeting wrapped up. As soon as they were out of the guild's door, Ryo thanked Sarah because she saved them. She smiles because after all these years, all the effort she put into studying has finally paid off. Now then, for the shop's opening, there's something Ryo would like to say to the two. To be frank, he wants them to take on new positions. As the number of their staff increases in the future, there will be limits to what Ryo can handle alone. So he wants them both to take charge of coordination and management. First, Kane. Ryo wants him to become the head chef and lead the kitchen staff. The younger man is quick to rise to the occasion even if he knows it's a big responsibility. As for Sarah, Ryo appoints her as the vice president of the Sato Trading Company. Sara couldn't believe it, her as the vice president? Well, if she's qualified for it, then she's more than honored to accept the position. Ryo is pleased to finally have her officially as the vice president. It's a new day and Sara comes barging in, letter in hand, as she tells Ryo that a message from the guild has arrived. She informs him that the loan they requested was approved, making Ryo relieved. As for the contents of the letter, it shows Ryo the total amount when they add the rent and loan repayments together. Looking at these numbers, he knows that income like that of a food stall won't be nearly enough. His brows furrow, thinking about how expensive everything is, and there are also the labor costs to consider. Speaking of labor, he tells the two that they'll have to start hiring staff and asks them how many people they need. Sara begins that they need someone to handle accounting at the register and someone for cleaning, so she thinks they'll need 8 people if they're also running shifts. Kane adds that he'd like to have 4 cooks because frying and dishwashing each need dedicated workers. So overall they need at least 12 people, no? Sara feels a little sad, and she can't help but wish there was another way. Ryo ponders for a bit before suddenly remembering something. Before he met Sara, Ryo asked Natasha about something. You know, about putting up a job posting on the guild's bulletin board. Sara also thinks that's a great idea, and even though there's a posting fee, Ryo believes it won't be a problem. Plus, since it will be posted at the guild, a lot of people will see it. Alright, no time to waste. Sara quickly starts drafting the recruitment poster right away, but just as she was about to write it, she stopped, prompting Ryo to ask what was wrong. To that she turns to him and asks what they name the shop. Ah, now that she mentioned it, they don't have a shop name. Kane comes in quickly and suggests they name it Ryo Burger since it's his shop. Our hero can only laugh because that sounds like too much in vain, no? On a more personal note, Ryo just wants to make the people of the town smile through food. He wants a name that feels familiar to the people of Solon. So with that in mind, he suggests this name to Sara and Kane. Cut to the next panel at the guild, people were clamoring over the bulletin board, seeing there was a new job posting from Sato Trading Company. It says there that they're hiring staff for Solon Burger. Salary is 250,000 krona monthly, and they need 4 cooks and 8 staff members, with the interview to be held on the 10th. Seeing how the people are crowding over his job ad, Ryo feels hopeful that they'll be able to gather enough people after all. This just leaves him wondering what kind of people he'll be working with. For now, he can only look forward to interview day, urging the two to do their best to prepare for the shop's opening. Then came the fateful interview day. Ryo's jaw is on the floor upon seeing the line of people eager to apply for the position at Solon Burger. Even Sara is impressed by the enormous crowd, while Ryo asks if they're really going to choose from all those people lined up. Wait a minute, now that he's looking at them, there are also regular customers and people he has seen before. Ryo feels touched because does this mean he has become a familiar face in Solon too? Realizing that just made him all the more grateful. Now then, it's almost time. Sara approaches him and asks if Ryo and Kane are ready, to which the latter says they're already set. Okay then. Sara says she'll go and fetch the first applicant, but before she leaves she hears Kane ask if he could speak with Ryo for a moment. At that our MC lends the other his ear as Kane tells him that he believes his wife will be coming in today for an interview. Both Ryo and Sara are shocked because what do you mean, Kane is a married man? Kane shyly admits that he got hitched about 3 months ago, but that's not what matters right now. Their chef relays how his wife wanted to work at the company when he told her about the job opening. However, Kane tells them that he doesn't want any favoritism because of that. Well, if that's the case, Ryo also points out that there's also no reason to accept her just because she's Kane's wife. Our MC tells him up front that they'll judge her fairly through the interview, and Kane couldn't be more grateful for that. Now that the matter is settled, Sara calls in the first applicant. A serious-looking man named Alan walks in, and Ryo welcomes him. Looking at his file, our hero notes that Alan applied for a customer service position. Alan details how he possesses a skill called physical endurance. It's a skill that allows him to work for long periods without getting tired, and this makes him believe that he'll definitely be useful to the company. Impressive, but Sara points out that his skill seems better suited for adventurers, so why did he apply here instead? Alan explains that his skill doesn't actually increase physical strength, so it can't really be said to be perfectly suited for adventurers. For him, he has always thought about using it in service, which is why he decided to apply to Solon Burgers. Even Ryo notes that Alan seems like he'd be of great help to the shop. They continue interviewing him until finally they wrap it up. Alan stands from his seat thanking them and apologizing for taking up a lot of their time. As soon as Alan was out the door, Ryo noted how he seemed like a pretty serious person. Once again, he realizes that everyone really has different skills, so they'll have to consider that when choosing. Just then, Sara calls for the next person to come in. By the way, Ryo is also curious about what Kane's wife is like. Wait, don't tell me the next person is her. But to their shock, a dark-haired girl with an eye patch walks in, introducing herself as Kutor, a demon who crawled out of the darkness into the world. What? Kutor's weird introduction was met with silence. I mean, wouldn't you? Again, she introduces herself as Kutor, this time like a normal person. Ryo maintains his professional smile but notes how Kutor can actually speak normally. Sara then asks if Kutor applied for the position of cook, to which the latter confirms flamboyantly. Cooter goes on about how she came to bestow upon the people the greatest, most perfect, absolute creation, one into which she poured her very soul. Again, her theatrics were met with silence, and again she resumed her normal speaking manner, apologizing quickly as she told them that she wanted to cook. Weird as she was, Rio finds it amazing that he actually met someone with Chunibyo syndrome. For those of you who don't know, this refers to teenagers with delusions of grandeur who think they have special secret powers. Anyway, Rio continues the interview and asks why she decided to apply. With a smug look, she tells them that it is something forbidden by the covenants of darkness, not to be spoken aloud. Well, Rio's not too pushy, telling her that it's fine if she can't talk about it. In a panic, Cooter reverts to normal, narrating how she's been helping her mother cook since she was little, and from there she began studying cooking on her own. Well, would you look at that? The covenants of darkness were dissolved at lightning speed. Rio asks what kind of skills she possesses. Again, she's back to her smug self. She removes her eye patch and tells them that in her left eye dwells a power bestowed upon her by ancient beasts, the skill absolute thermal perception. Just as quickly she turns to normal, saying she can tell the temperature of whatever she sees with her left eye. All three of them didn't say it, but they were thinking it. So Cooter's skill is basically thermal imaging. Alright, with that, Rio asks if she has any final words. Cooter clears her throat and proclaims how she's eagerly looking forward to the day they work together as comrades in this world. Then she very quickly bows, saying she'll do her very best. Rio's professional smile is practically glued on his face, seeing this kid's theatrics, as he just tells her they look forward to it. With that, Cooter makes her exit. Rio comments about her strong personality, a little startled at how they got quite an amazing applicant, a sentiment Sarah shares with him. On the other hand, there's Kane, who's pretty pumped up by her personality. Unlike them, he thinks Cooter is a very entertaining person. And well, even Rio can't argue with that. Cooter seems serious at her core, but it will depend on the selection with the others. Moving on, they continue the interview with the next applicant, going through them one by one until finally Sarah tells them that the next one is the final applicant. As she tells the applicant to come in, Rio remembers that they still haven't met Kane's wife. Wait a minute, if this is the last person, then surely it's her. The last person walked in, and in came a short-haired girl named Hana. Both Rio and Sarah are absolutely floored, while our hero goes ahead and asks if Hana is Kane's wife. Upon hearing that, she gets shy since Kane must have told them already about her. Anyway, Hana thanks them for taking care of her husband and relays how she used to work with Kane at Auntie Rose's inn. Sarah confirms whether Hana applied for a customer service position, and the latter affirms that it is correct. She goes on about how she has sufficient experience serving guests at the inn. Plus, Hana believes her skills, military advisor and situation analysis should also be useful for the restaurant as well. Her military advisor skill allows her to grasp the condition of the people around her. If there are about 10 people or fewer, she can tell who is doing what as if she were looking at it in the palm of her hand. Sarah finds her skill amazing and tells her that with a skill like that, Hana could have shown even in the military. To that, she admits that she was actually offered such a position, but because Kane is here, she doesn't want to be separated from her husband. Sarah steers the conversation back to the interview, asking if the inn's operations are doing okay. Hana says it is, since there are capable people at the inn, and Auntie Rosa also gave her permission as well. Besides, Hana and Kane were planning to go independent eventually. Well, if that's the case, then Rio has no problem with that. With that, Sarah wraps up their interview, thanking Hana for her time. Hana thanks them as well and tells her husband that she'll go home ahead. A few days later, the Sato Trading Company trio sits down to choose which applicants they will choose. Rio asks them which candidates they find suitable, starting with Sarah. She picks Alan and Hana, believing the two will provide the shop with great support. Rio agrees, adding that Hana can easily coordinate with Kane, and as for Rio himself, he'd like Hana to manage everyone using the military advisor skill. Sarah tells him that they have the same thought in mind, while Rio also shares his pick with them. Finally, there's only one left. At that, Kane expresses how he wants to work with Cooter. Sarah is hesitant, pointing out that there may be a communication issue, but Kane assures her that it will be fun. Rio supports this, saying he also thought Cooter was an interesting person. In his mind, Cooter seems more serious than her appearance suggests, and he doesn't think work will be a problem with her. Again, Kane vouches for her and even claims responsibility as head chef. Well, if their head chef insists that much, then Rio and Sarah have no other choice but to oblige. Now then, it's time to write their job offers. Somewhere in the city, someone calls out to Cooter, telling her that she received a letter. The girl, still groggy from her sleep, sees that it's from a commercial company. Wait, it's an interview acceptance. Cooter yells at the top of her lungs that she passed the interview, with somebody else telling her to shut up for being so noisy so early in the morning. Hana, Alan, and Cooter show off their uniforms, while Sarah and Rio look over, pleased. Sarah tells them they had the uniforms tailor-made, and Rio is just happy they managed to get them on time. Alright then. Our MC finally addresses the new employees. He thanks them for coming and explains that everyone present is accepted as staff of Solon Burger. He introduces himself as the president of Sato Trading Company, and today he'll explain the nature of the work as well as the shop to everyone. The once vacant lot is now the home of Solon's Burger. Ryo begins by telling them that the shop is different from ordinary restaurants. There are many unique aspects that he will explain to them. Upon hearing that, even Dahlhoff couldn't help but comment on how construction work was pretty exhausting for the shop. Ryo leads them to the counter, saying the service staff will take orders here. Hana echoes what he said, puzzled, with Ryo saying she's correct and that he'll explain later. Next, they go over the customers' seating tables and then the kitchen. In the kitchen, Ryo proudly shows off how they even had the special fryer custom made with everything practically new. Looking at the equipment, Ryo notes how some parts are made of wood and look different, but overall this makes it a Japanese burger shop. Just looking at the place makes him feel like he has returned to his original world. Now then, Dahlhoff is off. But before he went, he told Ryo to inform him if there were any concerns regarding the equipment. Ryo bids him goodbye and thanks him for his hard work. With the tour of the shop done, Ryo now proceeds to explain the workflow. He tells them that Sarah will be in charge of the service team while Kane will coordinate the cooking team. Now then, Ryo and the other two will show the new staff a practical demonstration of the workflow. First, they take the order at the counter, then hand the order slip along with a number tag to the cooking team. At the same time, our MC tells them that they will give the customer a tag with the same number. When the order is ready, they serve it to the customer holding the matching number. One of the staff comments on how it is a pretty innovative idea because that way things can be handled efficiently. Ryo tells them beforehand that they may also feel confused at first, urging them to get used to it as soon as possible. From the back, they hear sizzling sounds, and Ryo already knows the cooking team is busy with the food. Kane shows Cooter how to properly prepare the hamburgers, while the latter watches starry-eyed because she has never imagined such innovations exist. She tells them how people of the Darklands wouldn't know about this. Ryo smiles from where he's standing because it looks like the cooking team is doing just fine. Anyway, since he's done with the demo, Ryo tells the staff that he wants them to work in teams of 2 to 3 people, urging them to build good relationships before the opening. Alright, since everything is said and done, our MC suggests a dry run. This time, they'll start taking an order. Hana mans the counter as Ryo orders 1 teriyaki burger set. She jots down the order and tells him it would cost 800 krona. Then Hana informs Cooter of order number 1 teriyaki set. Cooter gets to work, going extra as she cooks the burger, yelling about burning it to a crisp by the flames of hell, until Kane tells her off not to burn it. And what do you know? Cooter actually prepares the burger correctly. Kane prepares the dish, then tells everyone that the teriyaki burger set is ready. Hana's attention is on her husband, commending him for being amazing, while Ryo has to stir her back to work. He asks who the next customer will be. This time, Kane asks if Alan could play the role, and the latter easily agrees. Alan serves the teriyaki burger set with a strained smile, so Ryo has to tell him that the expression he's making is a little scary. Just then, another employee approaches Ryo, asking him what they should do with the food waste after eating it. At that, Ryo explains that the customers put it themselves into the trash bin. Even Sarah finds it ingenious because with that, they only need to collect trays. Hana notes how the shop operates completely differently from the restaurants they know. Ryo tells them that he wants everyone to cooperate and memorize the system well, since he'll be counting on them until opening day. His staff gives a cheer at the end while Ryo stops and ponders how they finally reached this stage. Still, there seems to be less time than he expected, and it got him wondering if they will make it in time for opening day since there's only a short time left until then. Soon enough, people discover the newly opened shop in Solon, thanks to the flyer going around. Meanwhile, back in Ryo's shop, everyone's gearing up for the grand opening. With that, Solon Burger's grand opening finally came to fruition. It didn't take long for folks to start lining up at the counter to get their orders. Hana is the cashier for this shift, and she quickly relays the customers' orders to the kitchen. She placed an order for a teriyaki set for each customer, with Kutor as the cook. Meanwhile, Sarah is also busy handing out flyers and thanking the customers for dining with them during the shop's grand opening. Ryo supervises from a distance, pleased to see that the morning seems to be going well. Now that things have finally calmed down a bit, he praises the employees for a job well done. The training paid off after all. Just then, he notices Alan hand over the customer's order with a mix of a smile and a scowl. So like a smole? That the customer can't help but feel a little fearful and concerned about his well-being. From that alone, Ryo makes a mental note to enhance their customer service training a bit more. The customers can't help but gush about the vegetarian burger. It's light, delicious, and not greasy at all. Hearing them say that, Ryo turns to Kane, happy to see that the latter's suggestion is quite the hit. The latter feels a little shy, but he is happy with the results. Who wouldn't be? Especially since Kane thought long and hard about how to make a hamburger without meat. He's practically confident in it, especially since he did his research and targeted the healthy food line. For the veggie burger, he used salted eggs instead of meat, making it a filling alternative. Personally speaking, Kane thinks the veggie burger is ideal for breakfast. Speaking of breakfast, Sarah remembers that hamburgers didn't sell very well in the morning at the stall before. This made Ryo liken the veggie burger to a sandwich you can eat on the go. That sounds about right, no? Sarah can vouch for how light the veggie burger is on the stomach. She's eating one right now and understands why it's so popular with women. Besides, because of how light it is, you can eat several of them, as evidenced by the burger wrappers stacked right beside her. Rio hates to ask, but how many sets has Sarah eaten so far? To that, the latter can only apologize and reply. Meanwhile, from the outside, Hana notices a rare sighting. It's the Fostria family's food cart. But what makes it even rarer is that it stopped right in front of their shop. A second later, Lord Cerrito emerges, immediately asking if Rio is there. Unexpectedly seeing royalty out of the blue caused the employees to panic. Hana rushes to the back of the kitchen calling out to Rio, then stuttering the rest. You can imagine our MC's worry when he sees Hana like this, asking her what happened. Lord Cerrito happened. That's what. The nobleman happily greets Rio, congratulating him on the shop's opening. He may be kingly now, but Lord Cerrito is actually in disguise right now, so he asks Rio to keep quiet about this. Our MC has more important things to think about right now. For one, will His Majesty's cart be okay? But trivialities aside, the nobleman asks if he could have a burger ASAP. Rio, loyal to the system he introduced, says he'll take the nobleman's order right there. While they were talking, both Hana and Alan couldn't fully grasp why their employer was casually talking to Lord Cerrito. Actually, the nobleman still lined up, curious about this strange and interesting system they're using at the shop. With Hana at the counter, he takes Lord Cerrito's beef burger set, with the former a little shaken by his presence. After ordering, Rio leads Lord Cerrito to his seat, and again the latter is fascinated by the shop's interiors. Soon enough his order came, and the awkward Alan was still the one serving it. He may be smiling, but his brows are furrowed, and most importantly, he's on the verge of begging someone else to take over for him. Good for him, Lord Cerrito's focus is on the food, huh? Speaking of, he notes how this burger doesn't differ much from the ones he had before. Well, there's only one way to know the difference, and it's to taste it right away. As soon as he takes a bite, he's instantly blown away. Like the pork, this beef is completely different in terms of fat content. An excellent dish. Rio is happy to hear positive reviews from Lord Cerrito, with the latter once again asking if our MC would let him in on where he gets his supplies. And just like before, Rio maintains his company's secret. Lord Cerrito is now enjoying his fries, and from the back, Kudor couldn't believe that he's eating the fries she cooked. Kane had to remind her to stop staring since it's rude, but it was too late. Lord Cerrito already noticed her. Lucky for her, Lord Cerrito is amiable, asking Kudor if she was the one who cooked the food. The latter gets flustered at hearing such praise from the nobleman, and that's when Lord Cerrito shared that he absolutely loves potatoes. With that said, he'd be pretty happy if she could continue making such delicious fries. Kudor promises to do so, and just like that, Lord Cerrito has to go now. Again, he tells them how delicious the food was and that he'd like to visit again. Before he boards the carriage, he also tells them that he'll invite them all to a banquet next time, and Rio is happy to receive the invite. From the back, Alan and Hana loom over him. The moment he faces them, the two go off about how they never expected to receive such praises from Lord Cerrito himself. To be fair, our MC didn't expect the latter to visit either. Enough about Rio and the others for a moment, this time let's shift the camera to someone else. A girl in curly pigtails stands before Solo Burger, thinking finally she's at this burger place that everyone's been talking about. Looking at it right now, she notes how it's way bigger than their restaurant. Aha, so this is Rio's competition. Anyway, the girl, whose name is Rebecca, gives herself a little pep talk. For sure she'll uncover this restaurant's secret, and the reason for her surveillance con. Recently, the number of customers at their restaurant has been dropping a little. You see, talk of Solon Burger had reached their restaurant. How can it not, when the whole city is talking about it? Her parents told her then that they just can't sit around and feel at ease in their own restaurant. Being the feisty girl that she is, Rebecca will not stand for this since their home will be in danger. With that said, she says she'll investigate this new restaurant herself. Back to the present, she remembers her bold proclamation vowing to restore peace to their family with her own hands. Suddenly, she hears someone call her attention, snapping her back to reality. One of the employees served her order, a hamburger set. Rebecca's surprised at the fast service, but no, she won't be swayed easily. Sure, the serving speed is acceptable, but she believes that food made in such a hurry can't possibly be delicious. Or so she thought. Just one bite of the burger, and Rebecca can already see stars. It's that delicious. Arg, what the heck is this? She can't believe it. The poor girl is going through it right then and there, out in public, leaving a few of the customers concerned for her. Anyway, back to her food analysis. This burger is as tasty as the orc meat dish she once had in a high-end restaurant. There's a balance between the sauce and the filling that is just perfect. Plus, these crispy fries make her wonder just what kind of method they used to cook them. Probably the most shocking thing for her is that all of these costs only 800 krona. She looks at the menu and notices they have something called a vegetable burger, and it looks delicious too. But no, she needs to lock in. Rebecca, get your head in the game and don't forget your goal. She munches on her burger hurriedly, then sneakily makes her way to the back. The girl is determined to uncover this restaurant's secret no matter the cost. Anyway, so far she finds the interior a bit weird. Finally, she finds the kitchen and takes a peek from the door. Even the place is filled with mysterious pieces of equipment. She just finds the shop even more suspicious because of this. Just then, Ryo's voice sounded from behind, asking if there was something she needed. Rebecca shouts upon hearing him, apologizing as she tells him that the kitchen just caught her attention. Lucky for her, Ryo is good-natured and even offers to let her have a look around. He leads her to the kitchen and asks Sarah if he could disturb her for a moment. Sarah agrees, but only for a bit, and while the two are talking, Rebecca looks at him in surprise. Did she hear that right? He's the Ryo that everyone's been talking about? She has heard about him from her father. Apparently, this guy is a terrifying man who became a power merchant in just a month. What's more, he even became a seal bearer. This is it, her chance to know more about his stuff. So Rebecca bluntly asks him what those strange pieces of equipment are. Ryo happily shares what those are, pointing out the oven and fryer, tools used for cooking meat and making fries. Rebecca is stunned because that's it? She can't believe these tools actually make the burger. Since she's already here, she asks how he came up with such tools and the shop's system. To that, Ryo denies it, claiming that he didn't come up with anything special, they're just things that existed in his hometown, which is why he had them custom-made. The mention of his hometown piques Rebecca's interest, while our MC continues that even the hamburger originated there. It just so happened that the people of Solon accepted it. Their conversation got cut short when they heard a maniacal laugh. They both turned to see Cooter is up to her antics again, burning everything or something like that. As she leaned over and watched the dish get cooked, Rebecca asks if Cooter is also from his hometown, and nope, Ryo says that one's different. Anyway, continuing from what he was saying before, Ryo claims that he didn't do anything great at all. This man is pretty humble, no? He says that like it's nothing. One of the employees approaches Ryo for a concern, and seeing how he works, Rebecca knows that one cannot run a business on knowledge alone. Ryo focuses his attention back on her, and Rebecca opens up about how Solon is the only place she knows. Sure, Ryo doesn't take the claim and insists that the knowledge and everything else came from his hometown, but if she were in his shoes, she could never have done something like this. She cheers him on, commending him for his ability to make use of the knowledge to this extent, which is a merchant's talent in itself. After saying that, she bolts and says she'll come again sometime. He's definitely weirded out, but he still thanks her. Rebecca finally reaches home with her parents asking her how Solon Burger was. Admittedly, she tells them it was amazing and they can only chuckle since it's obvious their daughter enjoyed it. Of course, Rebecca tries to deny this, but her father points out that if Lord Cerrito acknowledged it, then it must be true. Be that as it may, her old man says they just can't stand by and do nothing. To that, Rebecca suggests they create a new menu that can compete with Solon Burger. Their daughter has really grown up, huh? That proclamation just made her folks cry. Fast forward several weeks later, Rebecca launches their new menu, an herb-grilled minced meat bread. Fellas, it's practically a burger served and cut in half. Even her father noticed the uncanny resemblance, plagiarism at its finest. At Lord Cerrito's castle, the young lord is in distress because they're currently facing a dreadful situation. Modon calls out to him, making the nobleman regain his composure. He cannot let things continue like this because if he does, then something terrible will happen to Solon. And from the looks of the destroyed wagon, this looks really bad. But we'll get to that later. Now Ryo looks at their earnings for the day. He never imagined they would profit this much in a month. Can you imagine? They earn about 1 million kronas a day. At this rate, paying the loan back won't be a problem at all. He jokingly mentions the establishment of the second store to Sarah, which she thinks is a good idea. However, she points out that if they decide to open a new store, then different problems will arise. Ryo counters, saying that following the same approach as this store should be enough. Sarah refutes, saying that within Solon itself it might be difficult. If they increase the number of stores in the same area, they'll end up competing for customers and stealing from each other. Now that she mentions it, that's true. But that's not all. Sarah says hamburgers won't sell easily in the suburbs, and if they build one, they'll inevitably have to build it near here, which makes it even harder to ensure profitability. This is much more complicated than Ryo initially thought. And ultimately, Sarah thinks that if they decide to move forward, it would be better to expand into another city. But to do that, they need time and money to research the city. Sarah adds that there are other risks as well. Monsters. Merchants always face the risk of being attacked while traveling. Wait, did she say monsters? The mere mention of them got Ryo shaking, though Sarah says serious damage is pretty rare in cases that do happen. Still, they'll have to hire guards, which costs money. Ryo can only scratch his head as he realizes opening another shop isn't that simple after all. In any case, for now, it's best they further develop the store and safety first. Then the two hear a rumbling sound, leaving them feeling puzzled. Not a moment later, Hana appears and tells them there's an emergency. The two get up from their seats, asking the former what happened, but all Hana can say is that it's serious. Apparently, they received a message from the Merchants Guild urgently summoning the president and vice president of Sato Trading Company. What's more, it's a direct request from Lord Cerrito and the guildmaster himself. Naturally, Ryo and Sarah head straight to the guild, where they meet with Doyle, master of the Merchants Guild, and Lord Cerrito. It was Ryo's first time meeting the former, so he's a little stiff, but Doyle tells him there's no need to be so tense. The guildmaster urges them to have a seat and get comfortable while they're served tea. Anyway, the two are curious why they were suddenly summoned, but Doyle hesitates, turning to Lord Cerrito. The latter begins and tells them that there was an accident a few days ago. There was a trade caravan that was supposed to transport wheat to Solon, but monsters destroyed almost all of the wagons. Oh no, so does this mean Solon's wheat supply will run short? Lord Cerrito confirms what Rio had just said. But wait a minute, Sarah remembers that the city has a large storage facility, right? Lord Cerrito replies that she's correct. The palace warehouses have sufficient reserves, but only in normal times. Doyle continues that this time the Fostria region used a large portion of its stock to support other regions suffering from food shortages. The caravan that was attacked was also meant to replenish the stock. Rio cuts in asking them how much wheat is needed. Doyle says they need about 200 trons, an amount enough to feed Solon's 35,000 residents for 2 weeks. Wait, that's a lot. Sarah points out that even if they ask every trading company in the city, it wouldn't be enough. This problem can no longer be resolved by ordinary means, which explains why they came to Rio for consultation, right? Finally, they get straight to the point. Doyle asks if our MC has a way to obtain a massive amount of wheat. Can't he use his power to find a solution to this situation? Doyle asks him to help save Solon. For Solon's sake, Doyle asks if Rio could help them supply the city with wheat. And if such a request is possible, the guildmaster also asks how much he can provide. To that, our MC tells him that he'll have to check first, as Rio pulls up his status screen. So far, the total current MP points are a little over 40,000. So if one MP produces about 800 grams of wheat, then they should be able to prepare the amount within 3 days. But then again, as the guildmaster, Doyle begs again, hoping Rio would use his skill to help them solve this problem. Our MC turns to Sarah for confirmation, and the latter gives him a slight turn of the head, so Rio tells them to give him some time to think. He needs to gather the opinion of the Sato Trading Company first before he can give them an answer. The guildmaster understands and already has a room prepared for them. With that, he still hopes that the Sato Trading Company will give a favorable reply. As soon as they were alone, Sarah explicitly told him that she was against this because this whole thing could expose his food cart skill to everyone. He's pretty much aware of that himself, but Sarah continues that the food cart skill is dangerous. No, it's far more dangerous than Rio can even imagine. If he wished for it, he could create an enormous fortune out of nothing or even destroy the entire market. And if this skill becomes widely known, someone will surely try to exploit it for evil purposes. If that happens, Ryo's life will be in danger. Admittedly, she knows Rio is the only one capable of saving the city, but still she's worried for him. Rio understands where she's coming from, and even he knows that everything she said makes perfect sense. However, he can't just ignore this as if nothing were wrong. If he's the only one who can do it, then he wants to save everyone in Solon. Sarah is touched by his intense desire to save the city, but then again, this has always been who he is. This kindness is the same kindness that once saved Sarah's life after all. Okay, she's on board, and she has an idea. A little while later, they emerge from the meeting room. With that, Doyle quickly asks what their answer is to his request. Rio readily tells him that if they agree to the 2 conditions the Sato Trading Company proposes, then they will accept the contract. First, Sato Trading Company requests that any records indicating the company's involvement in this supply operation be erased. Second, when storing the wheat, they ask that the guild mix it with wheat from other companies. Those are their only 2 conditions. So to sum it up, Rio doesn't want people to know that Sato Trading Company is involved at all. The guildmaster ponders for a bit but tells him that it's possible if they wish for it. Lord Cerrito has a question though. Why mix the wheat? Honestly speaking, he doesn't think Ryo's company plans to deliver inferior wheat. To that, the latter corrects him and says it's quite the opposite. Rio shows them the kind of wheat the company will be supplying. Upon closer inspection, the nobleman notices that it's made of astonishing quality. Wheat of this level would certainly attract attention. He also understood that because of this quality, some may start questioning its origin. Speaking of questions, Lord Cerrito has asked about it before, but he just had to do so again. Where exactly does Rio get his supply from? Especially since it's of exceptionally high quality, isn't it about time that Rio shared this with them? Plus, this wheat, despite the sudden request, Rio seemed remarkably well prepared for it. But our MC refuses to budge. He only tells the nobleman that they have their own unique supply route. To that, Lord Cerrito only smiles before assuring our MC that wheat is originally mixed to standardized quality, so the company shouldn't worry. With that, he turns to Doyle, asking the guildmaster what his thoughts are about Sato Trading Company's conditions. Doyle readily accepts them. He only hopes that the company can handle the supply. Rio thanks him and informs Doyle that he believes they can deliver the full amount within 3 days. What? That quickly? Lord Cerrito easily jumps into their conversation, asking Rio if he would like to finally use the seal. Well, now that he mentioned it, they should finalize the contract. For the first time since it was handed to him, Rio takes out the seal of the Fostria family. But wait, what about the ink? The nobleman instructs him to just press it in the center, just as it is. As soon as Rio did that, a magic seal appeared on top of the paper, and with that, the contract was complete. Lord Cerrito tells him that they should head to the largest grain warehouse in the Fostria territory. Rio and Sara arrive at the empty warehouse and just the sheer space of openness is a bit overwhelming. So you mean they have to fill this whole place? Modon excuses himself since he has done his part, with Rio thanking the older gentleman for showing them the way. He promises to start restocking the supply immediately. As soon as the door closes, Rio quickly gets to work and activates his creation magic. From the circle, a wheat poured out like a current, such incredible speed. From the looks of it, Sara comments that they may really be able to finish this within 3 days. Just then, Rio feels something off. Sara turns just in time to see our hero collapse to the ground. Rio. Sara rushes over to a collapsed Rio, asking if he is okay, but our hero can't even lift a finger. What is this? He could feel his consciousness slowly fading away. Before he realizes it, it gets dark, quickly followed by a bright light. When Rio came to, the first thing he saw was Sara clutching his hand, happy to see him awake. Like many people who suddenly blacked out, he asks her what happened. An older man suddenly came into view, informing him that he's in the palace infirmary. Sara then tells him that he suddenly collapsed while he was delivering goods. The palace doctor tells him that his sudden blackout was caused by a mild case of magic intoxication. It's a symptom that appears as a reaction when a large amount of magical energy is used all at once. Oh, so that's what happened. Anyway, the doctor prescribes him a strange-looking concoction, saying he'll recover instantly as soon as he drinks that. Judging from the mist emanating from the vial and the questionable swirly liquid, that sure looks suspicious. Rio had to ask again if he could really drink it, and both the doctor and Sara assured him that it's fine. Once he drinks it, he'll definitely feel better. What's a poor Japanese man teleported to a different world gotta do? Of course, Rio had no choice but to down it in a single go. Thankfully, what the two of them were saying was true. He did start to feel a little better. Anyway, the doctor suggests he rest for the whole day. He instantly frowned, thinking about their promised deliverables, but Sara insists that he take a rest. After all, his health comes first. She's right about that. Still, Rio feels guilty for troubling them, though Sara says that isn't true. If only she noticed how he was feeling sooner. But what he said is true though. Everyone was really worried about him. She starts scolding him for always pushing himself too hard. It even came to a point when she was left wondering what if he didn't wake up and just stayed like that. Rio admits he became overconfident in his own strength, and for that he apologizes to her and to everyone. It's all good, but from now on, Sara only hopes he doesn't push himself like this, because if something happened to Rio, everyone would be heartbroken. Sara made him promise that, and since making the people around him worry, he complies and will be more careful from now on. Modon appeared out of nowhere, catching them both by surprise. The older gentleman is just pleased to see Rio has regained consciousness. The latter was about to ask how long he's been there, and Modon says just a little while ago. More importantly, he's glad to see Rio is awake. He also came bearing news. Rio should proceed with the deliverables at a pace that won't strain him. If that's the case, our hero gladly accepted such kindness. He then turns to Sara, saying, starting tomorrow, he's going to need her support as well. The next day, Rio immediately got to work, but unlike before, he now paces himself with Sara supporting him. It went on like this until 5 days later, when they finally finished filling the warehouse with wheat. It's done. Suddenly, Wild Lord Cerrito appears from behind. The nobleman commends Rio for a job well done in a short time. Even now, when he's seeing all this wheat before his eyes, Lord Cerrito still can't believe it. If it weren't for Rio, the city could never have been saved from this food crisis. So on behalf of the Fostria region, the nobleman expresses his heartfelt gratitude by bowing his head to Rio. Both Rio and Sara panic because someone of Lord Cerrito's standing is actually bowing to them. But the latter says it's only natural since he's bowing to the savior of the Fostria region. Again, Lord Cerrito thanks him, which Rio does too. The nobleman extends his hand to Rio, saying he hopes they can maintain a good relationship both in and out of work. Our hero grabs his hand and shakes it, looking forward to working with Lord Cerrito from here on out. With the deliverables done, Sara and Rio both head home. Hana was the first to welcome them back. Rio apologizes for leaving everything to her for a while and quickly asks how things are. Hana assures him that everything was handled well. Feeling guilty that they were gone for so long, Sara says they'll both head to the shop right away, but Hana has a different idea in mind. She hands the latter a pair of theater tickets she got from a friend. Since she and Kane don't have matching shifts that day, Hana asks if Rio and Sara would be willing to take the tickets instead. But upon hearing her concern, Rio is about to suggest changing their shifts, but Hana could only sigh. These past few days, she knows he's been working on behalf of the guild, and on top of that, he's been working at the shop non-stop too. With that, she insists he take a break even for just a little while. Crap, Rio realizes once again that he also made Hana worry, so to appease her, he decided to take the tickets. Hana turns to Sara and says she should also go. Doesn't he want to go with Rio, just the two of them? That commentary left Sara flustered and defensive, saying that's not the case at all, but Hana knows better. Besides, who knows? They might enjoy their time off together. The next morning, the pair meets up at the shop so they can head out together. Sarah came in a bit late, feeling sorry for making Rio wait. She didn't expect that it would take her a bit longer to get dressed for today. It's worth it though, since Rio compliments her on how the dress really suits her. She thanks him, and with that they finally head out for their well-deserved day off at the theater. On the way, Sarah can't help but gush about her excitement over this. It's been so long since she last watched a play, after all. Rio asks if she likes theater, and the latter replies that she loves it a lot. When she was still living in the village, traveling theater troupes would come sometimes, and as a kid she always waited for them eagerly. She then asks Rio if he watches plays often. Rio ponders for a bit, admitting that he doesn't. In fact, he thinks he hasn't seen a play since he was a child. Sarah's eyes widen in shock, prompting Rio to ask if it really was that weird. As a theater enthusiast, Sarah points out that he's missing out on a lot of life's enjoyment if he doesn't watch theater. Her eyes sparkle as she talks about the troupe they're about to see. They're amateurs, but they're pretty well known. Plus, this is her first time watching them too, which makes her pretty excited. Heh, so that troupe is that popular, huh? Hearing Sarah say that is enough to make him excited too. Just then they spot the theater. From the looks of it, a lot of people have already arrived. Surprisingly, she didn't know the theater was this close to them. Sarah's eyes twinkle. She starts to rush over there, eager to get good seats, so Rio has no choice but to hurry as well. Thankfully, they found some decent seats where the view looks good once they're inside. Their butts had barely touched the seats when Sarah went off about how this play seems to be about forbidden love between two rival noble families, which is pretty similar to Romeo and Juliet. How painful, right? Rio just quietly listened as she rambled on, but since it's about to start soon, even he's starting to get excited. Fast forward to the middle of the play. The female lead laments about how, despite their fateful encounter, fate is so cruel. At the mention of that, it makes Rio think about how if he hadn't met Sarah back then, what would his life be like right now? Maybe he wouldn't have met his current companions, or even Lord Cerrito. Back to the play, the female lead cries out to her lover, Leonardo. The latter walks away from her, apologizing because he couldn't see her anymore, as he couldn't go against his family. While watching the scene, Rio thinks that maybe fate really does exist. Sarah notices that he seems to be zoning out, so she calls him out. Why is he so distracted? They're at the best part right now. With that, he apologizes and turns his attention back to the play, but before that he points out her hand clutching his elbow. Sarah has never moved that fast in her life, her hands flying back to her because, promise, she didn't mean to do that. Soon the show wrapped up, and as soon as the curtain closed, Sarah bawled her eyes out. She keeps crying over the male lead, Leonardo. Rio also never imagined the story would end like this. While Sarah continues to lament how Leonardo chased after his lover and threw himself after her, suddenly she turns to Rio, demanding that they're going to talk about their opinions after all this, right? Well, if they were going to do that, Rio suggests they grab something to eat before they head back. Outside the city square, Sarah noticed something. Someone's carrying a Solon burger bag. Looking at it just makes Rio realize how moments like this really make him feel glad that he opened the shop. Sarah agrees. For her, it makes her feel more motivated to work hard. It really makes him feel like he has become a true resident of Solon. Plus, the reason he has come this far is that he met Sarah. She's taken aback by the sudden deep talk, so Rio admits that he was thinking about that while watching the play earlier. To him, it felt like it wasn't just a simple coincidence. To that, Sarah answers that even if it was just a coincidence, she promises to always stay by Ryo's side. That fact will never change. He smiles, and with that he suggests they start their discussion about today's impression, getting Sarah all excited for their drinking session later on. After their day off, Rio and Sarah went back to work the very next day. Now Rio is busy serving orders to their customers. Hana came in just in time to inform him that it's almost break time. He tells her to make it their lunch break. They eat together, and while doing so, Sarah goes on about how hamburgers are always delicious no matter how many times you eat them. Rio had to ask if she's okay because isn't she eating a little too much? Sarah replies that strangely enough, no matter how much she eats, she never gains weight. Sarah is living our dream. Even Rio comments on how he wishes he could say something like that. Hana, on the other hand, shares how she feels her pants have gotten much tighter lately. Rio had to explain to them that potatoes are basically pure carbohydrates, so you have to be careful with them. At that, both ladies stopped and looked at him. Carbohydrates? What's that? Sarah asks. Oh yeah, Rio forgot that he came from a different world. He elaborates that foods like wheat and potatoes are things that get converted into energy. Cutting back on them helps when dieting. This is the first time the ladies have heard about this. They didn't know people thought about food like that. Just then Alan appears, apologizing for disturbing Rio during his break. As always, Rio gets up and asks what happened, concerned about the shop. The former has a hard time explaining, and yeah, we get why, and it's because of the next panel. Lord Cerrito waltzes in, looking a lot more like Majin Buu in Noble's clothes as he comes in happily asking to eat some freshly made fries. Everyone's mouths hang open upon seeing the nobleman, because not to body shame or anything, but how did he blow up like this? Rio had to ask if he really was Lord Cerrito, and the latter proclaims that it's really him. To that, Mondo steps in, distressed as he admits that he can't overlook this anymore. What should they do about Lord Cerrito Gay even Modon? Lord Cerrito is too shocked by the older man's honesty. So yeah, the thing is, Lord Cerrito ate too many fries and burgers, which led to his sudden weight gain. I mean, how can he not? It turns out Lord Cerrito had burgers and fries as snacks or little treats before bed. Mondo admits his mistake is that whenever he saw the young lord enjoying his food, he couldn't bring himself to stop him. Well, now that Ryo realizes it, Mondon has been coming to the shop to buy those every day lately, huh? The older man can't help but weep because at this rate the young lord's current physique could affect his duties as a ruler. Obviously, this is a pretty serious matter. Ryo decided that he'd do his best to help. The words have merely gone out of his mouth when Mondo grabs both of his hands and thanks him. This is a lifesaver, especially since they were just talking about dieting earlier. Lord Cerrito, who heard everything, asks if they could make an exception for potatoes, with Ryo replying that they'll cut back on that one for now. With that, Ryo relays everything that happened at the back of the house. Sara never imagined that Lord Cerrito's physique had gotten this bad, though Hana doesn't find it surprising. On his part, Ryo wanted to come up with some diet recipes that wouldn't be too hard to follow, prompting Kane to ask what the former's plan is. Actually, our MC already has an ingredient he wants Kane to use, handing it to him. It's tofu. Ryo actually recently learned how to make this. Our MC says there are a lot of ways to cook tofu, and to demo, he'll make a dish he used to eat often back home. First, he chops the vegetables with skill, then boils them with seasoning. Now the fun part. He tells Kane to watch closely, as Ryo explains that when you add flour dissolved in water, it turns into a thick sauce. Finally, pour this sauce over the tofu, and tada! The tofu with thick sauce is complete. Ryo offers it to Lord Cerrito, urging him to give it a try. The nobleman agrees and takes a bite. To his shock, this tofu with thick sauce is really delicious. The flavor is light, but the thick sauce coats the tofu with a rich taste. Of course, we all expected Sarah to be munching on the dish. She's going at it, excited about how tasty and healthy this dish is. This one would also definitely succeed commercially. Ryo tells them that even he managed to lose weight thanks to tofu. Lord Cerrito thanks him because with this he believes he can endure staying away from potatoes. Ryo is happy to hear that. In the meantime, he'll prepare some other recipes and give them to the nobleman later. Just then, Mondo calls for Lord Cerrito's attention. Looking worried, he hands the young lord a letter containing an urgent report that came from the Merchants Guild. Lord Cerrito opens the letter, and as soon as he stops reading, he looks distressed. He turns to Ryo, saying he has a sudden request, and it's a mission that only the Sato Trading Company can be relied on for. He wants them to save a village. Huh? Save a village? What does he mean by that? Lord Cerrito tells him that he wants Ryo to provide the village with food aid. Specifically, My Village. Upon hearing that, Sarah reacts because her sister lives in My Village. Lord Cerrito doesn't know that, but there's actually one more important concern. A rain dragon has settled near the village. A rain dragon settled near the village of My? That's impossible. Sarah grows even more worried because what about the villagers? Is her sister safe? He assures her that her sister and all the villagers are unharmed, so she doesn't need to worry. Sarah sighs in relief, but Ryo, on the other hand, is curious about the monster. What exactly is this dragon? Oh, Lord Cerrito is a little surprised that Ryo doesn't know about dragons, so he filled him in. Dragons are beings that possess enormous magical power. Among them is the rain dragon, which is considered the strongest of the species. It's said that rain never ceases in the region where it settles. According to legend, on a mere whim it can cause a massive flood and create a vast lake. Because of its power, it seems the village's farmlands have been completely destroyed. In line with this mission, Lord Cerrito says he will work on setting up a support system as well, but that will take time. Until then, he'd like to ask for Ryo's help in securing emergency food supplies first. Wait, Ryo has a question. Lord Cerrito mentioned that this is a task that other trading companies can't take on. Why is that? Sarah answers instead, saying it's because no company wants to accept this job. The nobleman admits that what she said is true. Emergency requests like this carry great risk and bring almost no profit. On top of that, securing transportation routes is extremely costly and the distance is very far. Oh, let's not forget the rain dragon, obviously. Despite all that, Ryo says they should go, the Sato Trading Company can handle it, and he personally asks Lord Cerrito to let him go. The latter warns him that the rain dragon is truly dangerous, and it could put Ryo's life at risk. Even so, will he accept the mission? Our MC is confident that he can accomplish it. Besides, he has no reason to refuse because this is for Sara's sake too. The nobleman smiles, commending him for always taking on the extraordinary with astonishing confidence. All right, Lord Cerrito will provide him with all the support he can give. They shake hands, and in this matter the nobleman leaves it all in Ryo's hands. Ryo quickly relays the situation to his staff, apologizing to Hana that they'll be away again for a while. The others didn't have any qualms about it, given how it was a direct request from Lord Cerrito himself. However, Hana admits that she didn't expect a dragon to be involved in the issue. But more importantly, she asks what will happen to the shop while Ryo and Sarah are gone. Now that she brought it up, Ryo says he'd like to temporarily entrust the shop's management to Hana's capable hands, much to her shock. Ryo tells the latter how she is always keeping a close eye on everyone, thanks to her skills. Sarah also trusts Hana completely when it comes to managing accounts. Kane adds that he'll also do his best to support his wife. Cooter cuts in proclaiming that she's here too, and she'll happily wipe out any threat no matter what it is. Okay, that was awkward. She reverts to her shy self, apologizing for going overboard again. Rio says it's fine since they will also be counting on her too. Hana assures them that they'll be fine, just leave the shop to them. Rio thanks her, and with that he heads out with Sarah. But first they do a little shopping. After they've put away the crates, Sarah suggests they review everything given how the rendezvous is at dawn. But looking at all the materials they bought, these are cooking tools and tableware for the villagers. On the other side, they have clothes and daily necessities as well as medicinal herbs and camping equipment. Sarah wonders if they could really carry all of this. But to Rio, of course, it's no problem. He uses his storage magic to what else? Store all of the materials in it. Sarah has seen that before, but looking at it now, she's surprised how everything really fits inside. Personally speaking, Ro also doesn't know the limits of his ability anymore. What he does know is that it seems his food cart skill has leveled up quite a bit. They don't even need to buy a tent anymore. With a wave of his hand, Ryo turned the cart into a tent, thanks to form change. Sarah quickly peeks inside and oh my gosh, this is quite an unbelievably luxurious tent they got here. Ryo adds that what makes it even better is that it's also infused with magic. With this, he believes their journey will be safe. Sarah compliments him, saying he has become far more reliable than before, while he vows to protect everyone, including Sarah's sister, with this power. With that, the two boarded their wagon and headed out to Mai village. They have no idea that apart from monsters, there are other concerning things in the forest, like thieves. In fact, two of them have been eyeing Rio and Sarah's wagon from a distance. For them, it's their lucky day since a weak merchant wandered right into them. They stepped out from the bushes they were hiding in and blocked our MC's paths. The bandits brandished their weapons and demanded that the latter leave everything of value behind. Rio grew fearful with this unexpected encounter when a voice from inside their wagon told him not to worry, he should just leave it to them. One of the bandits was telling them to hurry up, but a moment later something struck and knocked him down. Huh? What the? His companion does a double take. Do they have escort guards? True enough, they do. A hand grabs the remaining bandit's shoulder as the owner of the said hand says these bandits are pretty gutsy to challenge an S-rank party. Just like that, the small fry evil is defeated. The bandits are tied up in the next panel as Rio thanks the party for their help. Well, it was no biggie for them, that was easier than breakfast. Sarah chimes in saying she didn't expect that the witch's staff party would protect her and Rio. She's heard all about their group from all over the region. Not Rio though. He turns to Sarah, whispering if these guys are really that amazing, so Sarah tells him that they're not just amazing. In this region there are only 3 S-rank parties in the kingdom, and all 3 of them are famous. Rio gasps as he realizes this group before them is actually one of those parties. At that he hears someone chuckle from the side. It's Emil and Yuffie, members of the party, amused at Ryo's cluelessness. They didn't mean any harm by it though, it's just that they could hear what Ryo and Sakura were whispering about. Their leader Lun sits right next to another member, Damien. Lun knows that Ryo is from a distant land, so it's only natural for him to be unfamiliar with the witch's staff. On the other hand, Lund and the others have actually heard a lot about the famed Sato Trading Company. Word on the street is that the company is the rising star Solon is counting on. This is the first time Ryo has ever heard of that. Honestly speaking, Lund finds that hard to believe, but after seeing the enormous toolbox he's convinced. After all, it's a skill that every adventurer dreams of. Yuffie adds that toolboxes themselves are pretty rare enough as it is, but Ryo's toolbox is on another level. What's more, she could tell that the tent is enchanted with powerful enhancement magic. Whoa, just hearing all that makes Damien praise Rio even more. Anyway, Lund suggests they continue tomorrow and rest for today since it's already dark out. Ryo feels thankful for their group's help, so as a token of appreciation he asks them to let him treat the party to dinner at his restaurant tonight. Oh, that piques Lund's interest. The group is about to experience a life-changing event. As usual, Ryo serves them his signature dish and urges them to try the hamburger. Emil and Yuffie each take a piece and look at the burger curiously. They've heard rumors of this so-called burger before, while Emil is impressed by how fresh food can actually be stored. Lund opens his mouth wide and takes a big bite along with the others. As usual, the foursome is shocked by how good it tastes. Like many others, they couldn't believe how the meat was overflowing with juice and how the ingredients blended perfectly. Damien even went as far as to say that even in the capital it's rare to find food this good. Lund is already looking forward to the next serving, asking if there are more burgers. Emil also jumps in, saying she wants some more as well. Ryo assures the group that there's plenty more where that came from, so there's no need to rush. Now that Lund got a taste of Ryo's burger, it's no wonder that they call the latter a rising star given his skill and reputation. Now he understands why the regional governor acknowledged Ryo. With that said, the leader quickly asks our MC if he would like to join the witch's staff. Lund is pretty confident Ryo is well suited to the adventurer profession. That invitation made our hero spit his drink out because what do you mean, he's suited for the adventurer profession? What part of Ryo's body screams that? Ryo can only tell the other man not to joke like that. leaving Lund a little disappointed at the abrupt rejection of his invitation. Several days later, at last, they finally got out of the forest and were nearing Maimai village. As soon as they reached the town proper, they looked for a place to stay for the night, with the intention of planning tomorrow. Sarah notices how the weather has gotten worse, with Lund saying that it must be due to the influence of the rain dragon. Sarah only hopes that her sister is safe when suddenly they hear a crashing sound. What was that? From ahead they see people clamoring about with voices warning the others to get back since it's dangerous. Then they finally see the cause of all the ruckus. The bridge has collapsed. At the other side of the village, some of the farmers look out at the fields depressed because it looks like the rain isn't going to stop. The other one laments how his fields have been completely ruined because of this rain. Speaking of ruin, Sarah notes how the bridge leading to the village was destroyed by the rain. Looking at it right now, she has no idea when aid from Solon will arrive. The others are also distressed because what are they supposed to do right now? Just then they see a carriage approaching from a distance. It soon stopped, and Sarah dashed toward it as soon as she saw her big sister. The carriage took them to a certain mansion within the village. There they meet Justin, the governor of Maimai village, and his wife Luna, who is also Sarah's big sister. Justin shakes Rio's hand, thankful for making the trip all the way to their village. The former admits that if things continued like this, they have no idea what the village would become. Rio introduces himself as the president of Sato Trading Company, and adds that he personally asked Sarah to be the vice president of the company. Justin chuckles in relief because he never expected his wife's younger sister to come and save them. Sarah, on the other hand, is busy with her older sister. She's relieved to see Luna is safe. Luna also feels the same, seeing how her sister and the others are finally here. But wait, they heard that the bridge collapsed, so how did Sarah and the others make it to the other side safely? Well, to answer that, let's wind it back to a few more panels. So the bridge collapsed, right? This time it's Yuffie who stepped up, saying she'll fix it. She puts a seed on the ground and starts chanting. As soon as she did, the seed sprouted, and out came large vines that reached out to the other side, thus making a new bridge. Rio relays the story to Luna, impressed by the unbelievable power of magic. Lund explains that they were summoned to the village because they can use magic related to engineering and construction. So when it comes to the reconstruction of the village, just leave it to them. Emile, on the other hand, says she specializes in combat. Well, that's nice to hear and all, seeing how they look reliable, but she informs them that the village's situation isn't very good. Right now, most of Maimai village's fields are flooded and completely destroyed. Some houses in the lower areas have already submerged. Lund already saw the condition of the houses in the village when they arrived. Despite their conditions, he's confident that they can fix everything in 3 days. In just 3 days? Justin couldn't believe his ears. Damien says that for them, that's about the reasonable limit. Anyway, Lund says they'll start work tomorrow so Justin can rest easy. If that's the case, then the governor leaves reconstruction in their capable hands. This time, it's Rio who asks Justin about the food situation in the village. The latter says it's critical because their concern is not only the fields but even the stored provisions have been almost ruined by flooding. As a result, they're trying to ration, but if this continues, they'll reach their limit soon. Oh no, this is much worse than Rio initially thought. Okay then, the first thing they need to prioritize is food distribution. He suggests to Justin that they should start doing that right now. The governor is surprised, while Damien thinks it's a good idea. In fact, everyone's feeling pretty hungry right now. Like Justin, Luna is a bit skeptical since she saw that they didn't bring those kinds of supplies for them. Sarah tells her sister not to worry because Rio is handling it. If it's him, he can make it happen. Rio just knows that when it comes to distributing food, it has to be that dish. Soon enough, he tells everyone to line up for the food. The villagers got a taste of his soup and found that it was very delicious. It's like the soup itself warms the very depths of your body. Of course it is. The dish prepared by the Sato Trading Company is none other than pork soup. This time it's Rio's turn to help out as he starts serving the pork soup for everyone. The villagers have non-stop praise when they slurp his soup, noting how the miso goes perfectly with the spices and meat. An older man even wonders how it feels so comforting, even though this is his first time eating it. It's truly such a delicious meal. The older man asks if he could have another bowl, and a few voices follow along for a second serving. Rio tells them there's plenty more to give and urges them to line up in an orderly manner. Luna notices how the crowds are gathering at the food cart, noting how Ria's won over everyone's hearts, no stomachs, from the very first meal. It's been so long since she has seen everyone this lively. Even Justin says that everyone's energy has returned thanks to Rio. Now they have fuel to work on rebuilding the village. A little girl suddenly springs up, calling Rio uncle and asking for another bowl of soup. Uncle? Who is she calling uncle? That hit a nerve, but Rio just smiles along. Since they're done feeding the village, Rio and Emile head out to feed the other villagers who are busy fixing the houses. Along the way, the former asks if it's really okay for him to help out, to which Emile reveals that they were originally a combat force. But this time, what she and Yuki will do is help as a supply team. Soon they find a few villagers crowding ahead of them. At the front, Rio sees Lund and watches how the latter puts his hand in the ground and creates a crater. Huh, what was that? Rio couldn't believe what he just saw. Meanwhile, Lund and Damien are pretty casual about it, thanking Rio for the food. Our MC hands the leader the supplies, asking what just happened. Lund tells him that he can control soil and rocks. He created that crater, thinking of using it as a water reservoir here. Speaking of water, Damien conjures water out of thin air and pours it all over the crater Lund just made. Voila, water reservoir done. With that finished, Lund and Damien walk away to head to the next location. Looking at their retreating backs, Rio wonders if what they just did is possible for any human. Just then he sees Yuffie too. Great timing because she's about to fix the roof of the house over there. Wait, the roof? Before Rio could question how, Emil tells him to just see it for himself. Yuffie starts chanting again, and a second later vines of every size sprout out of the roof. A second later they're all gone, and the roof is all fixed. As it turns out, Yuffie made the roof's wood grow and repaired it. Wow, so is this the power of an S-rank adventurer? They can even apply skills to the elements. Rio returns to the cart and sees that they finished distributing today's rations and thanks Emil for her help. With his work done, his mind keeps going back to how everyone's skills are pretty amazing. As for him, he didn't contribute much to the construction itself and feels a little deflated since it's obvious that he can't keep up with them. Just then he hears someone call him uncle. It's the kid from before. The girl's mother finally catches up to her, apologizing to Rio since her daughter insisted on coming after him. Since they're there already, Rio asks if there's a problem. The girl Claire only has this to say to him. "Thank you, uncle." She goes on about how his bread was really delicious and that she has never eaten bread that soft before. She tells him how everyone is grateful to him because they've never eaten food this delicious before. Hearing her appreciate his food so much uplifts Rio's spirit. He thanks Claire and tells her that he'll cook again tonight so she should look forward to it. Upon hearing that, she beams. Right, this is no time to compare his skills. He has to do what he can do. 3 days later, Witch's staff managed to repair most of the village. They have also taken measures against flooding so things are temporarily safe. Since renovation is done, Lund says they'll head into the forest to investigate the rain dragon. With that said, they'll leave the village in Rio's care for now. Our MC says he'll cover for them. Lund adds that the chances of the dragon being near the village are low based on the weather conditions. If they find any traces of the dragon, they'll make sure to return immediately and inform them. With that, they're off. The villagers even see them off, and the adventurer's wagon finally leaves. Little did they know, the dragon was just near the village and watching them closely. It's been 3 days since the witch's staff set out on its investigation mission. Although he came to help out with the food situation, Rio has been all around helping the villagers whenever he can. Right now he's doing cleanup and Justin thanks him for his efforts, knowing the former is busy enough as he is with food preparation. Suddenly a group of children crowds around Rio demanding to both play with them and feed them. He can only laugh, seeing how the kids have completely grown attached to him. Let's see, since the weather is pretty clear today, he suggests they all cook outside. The children cheer, happy to do something different. Our hero goes on about how, back in his hometown, there's a dish they always make at a time like this. This piqued the children's interest, and they asked Rio what it was. Well, they'll find out once it's done. But for now, he urges everyone to follow along. First, they cut the vegetables and meat into suitable pieces. Then they stir-fry all the ingredients together. Once they're cooked, Rio lets them simmer over low heat. Looking at what he's cooking, one of the kids comments how it's not that different from the pork soup from before. To that, Rio answers that the important part starts here, procuring a familiar chunk of brown item, saying they will add that to the dish. The kids gather around it, curious and a little wary. To them it looks like dirt. Can they really eat this? Rio tells them that it's not dirt and they just need to wait and see. Soon enough, Rio drops the curry cubes into the simmering pot, and the kids can see that it changes color. Not only that, but it smells amazing too. The smell itself is making their stomachs growl. He tells them to wait and be patient since it will take a little longer. Thankfully, the kids easily agreed and didn't kick up a fuss. Soon enough, some of the villagers start appearing, noting the delicious smell wafting from what Rio is cooking. Even Sarah is already drooling, excited for the food. She just knows it will be delicious based on the smell alone. More and more villagers have appeared. Rio tells them they made a lot and to look forward to it. Well, since everyone is waiting, Sarah suggests they read a story until it's done. Sarah and the kids sit together as she begins reading the story. Long ago, an old man and an old woman lived together. The old man went to gather firewood, and the old woman went to the river to wash clothes. Suddenly, the current carried along a gigantic orange. Wait a minute, Rio finds this story awfully familiar. Sarah continues her story, saying that the old woman brought the orange home and cut it open. Suddenly, a boy came out of it. Rio now knows why the story is so familiar. It's literally Momotaro. Back to the story. The boy grew up to become a hero and fought the Demon King with his companion and the 5 great dragons. Oh, so Sarah's story is different. In her version, the boy fought the Demon King and not just demons. Speaking of dragons, Rio wishes the rain dragon would join them too. Is Rio for real? Anyway, one kid approaches Rio asking if the food is ready yet. He tells her that it's almost done. He checks the rice and sees that it's cooked, so all that's left now is serving. With that, the dish is finished. He hands them a new dish this time. Curry. Ryo urges everyone to line up. Justin finally gets a plate and is amazed by this strange dish. It's a bit spicy, but it also just makes you want to eat more. One of the kids is already eating his second plate, and Claire wants to have a second serving too. In fact, many of the kids are already lined up, so Ryo tells them to just line up nicely since there's still plenty to give. Looking at what's happening right now, Justin couldn't help but think about how just recently the village was completely devastated. But now it has come back to life. Thinking about it now, he never even imagined the village would be back to its lively state. The villagers think so too, as they approach Ryo and tell him that his and his companions coming there was a blessing for them. With that, they thank Ryo from the bottom of their hearts. As usual, our modest MC brushes it off, saying he just made the food. Speaking of food, Ryo was just about to try his own curry when suddenly a shadow cast over him. He looks up, wondering why it suddenly got dark, and to his shock, it's the dragon. The monster communicates with Ryo telepathically, asking him if he was the one who made this. Because if he is, then the creature wants him to step forward at once. The dragon looms over Ryo, asking him if he was the one who made the curry, but the creature does not wait for our hero's response and commands him to come over quickly. In the face of such monstrosity, all Ryo can think about is why the dragon suddenly appeared. Did they do something to anger her? Whatever the case may be, he has no choice but to oblige the mighty creature. Ryo walks over to the dragon and raises his plate of curry for the latter to see it better. So much for seeing it better. Because before Ryo could understand what was happening, the dragon quickly slurped the curry in one go. As soon as the creature finished eating it, it roared at how delicious the curry was. Ryo takes this chance to ask if the dragon was craving curry, and surprisingly, it's exactly to the creature's liking. In fact, she wants more. At that, Ryo points out that there's some left, but he's not quite sure if it will be enough to satisfy the mighty dragon. Well, if that's the case, the dragon says she'll just make herself much smaller. Not a moment later, its body starts to glow, and before they realize it, the dragon takes the form of a small girl. She happily boasts about her new form while Ryo and the rest are left with their jaws on the floor. But it's not like the dragon cares about their shocked faces. What she wants is the curry, so she tells them to hurry up and bring it to her. That snapped them back to reality, with Ryo offering to guide her to the castle where the remaining curry is. At the castle, the former dragon, now little girl, heartily eats the curry Ryo cooked. She had her fill of multiple bowls until at last she told them that she was finally full. Ryo's cooking truly was delicious, since she even goes so far as to say that she could eat it endlessly. Our hero, on the other hand, checks the large stew pot, all clear of the curry he cooked. The mayor takes this chance to ask the girl if it's proper to call her Lady Amerio. Thankfully, she's not too fussy about titles and tells them they could drop the formalities. In fact, she encourages them to just call her whatever they like. Speaking of, she turns to Ryo, asking what his name is. The latter gives her his name, and that's when she decided that he should choose a name for her. Eh? Now that's a pretty peculiar request, right? Still, all he can think about is Rain Dragon, Rain Dragon. So ultimately, he asks if she's okay with the name Lady Rai. She perks up upon hearing that, yes, Rai is a fine name, so she decides that it shall be her name from now on. But to more important matters, the mayor then asks why Lady Rai suddenly came to the village this time. Rai relays how she was in the middle of fighting some adventurers in the forest when out of nowhere she caught the smell of something wonderful. She let her nose lead her, and that's why she flew straight to the village. At the mention of adventurers, Ryo became worried. Is Rai maybe referring to Lund and his companions? The girl is surprised to know that Ryo knows those adventurers, though she assures him that they were not hurt. After all, she just played around a little. Well, that's a relief to hear. Actually, it's been a while since she saw adventurers, and it's even rarer to see warriors with such skills, making her wonder just what happened. This time, the mayor does the honor of explaining the situation to Rai. As soon as he finished, Rai bowed her head in apology. What the? That's unexpected. Seeing her like this made Ryo and the mayor flustered. They urge her to raise her head as she asks if the destruction that befell the village was all her doing. As much as it pains the mayor to say this, he tells her that it is true. However, Rai admits that she never intended to cause harm and that, given the vastness of this forest, no harm would happen. But she's also aware that in her current form, her power makes rain fall unconsciously, and its effects spread farther than she can properly keep track of. On the upside, if she concentrates, she can stop the rain across this entire region, promising that this village will never suffer from flooding again. The mayor is more than happy to hear that, and even Rai wishes to avoid conflict since she dislikes it. With the matter settled, she turns to Ryo and asks if he wants to become her personal chef. A chef? This is because Rai wants to eat a lot of curry from now on. She has lived for so many years, but she has never tasted food this delicious before. As happy as he is to hear that, our hero was about to turn down the offer when she told him that she's not asking for him to do it for free. Instead, she wants to form a dragon's contract with him. Both Sarah and the mayor are stunned. Did she just say she wants to form a dragon contract with Ryo? For real? Ryo has no idea what that even means, echoing the words Rai just said to her. On the other hand, both Sarah and the mayor are on their toes because why would Rai want to form a dragon contract with Rio? Rai is a little surprised that our hero has no idea what this entails, while it looks like the other two know what this means. Sarah explains then, asking if she remembers the story she read to the children earlier, the tale of Momotaro variant. The legend is about the hero who defeated the Demon King together with a dragon. In that story, the dragon and the hero formed a bond of friendship to defeat the Demon King that is what's called a dragon contract. Sarah continues that a dragon contract is proof of friendship with a dragon, and up until now only one person has ever formed one, the legendary hero himself. So this just really makes our hero a canon hero, right? But apart from that, Ryo is more shocked at the fact that the hero really existed. He thought for sure the hero was just something from fairy tales. Then he turns to Rai, asking if she's really willing to form a dragon contract with him just so she can eat curry. The latter answers yes without skipping a beat. You can imagine how overwhelmed Ryo is feeling right now. Because who would have thought that in this world, just serving food from his hometown would grant him a contract that only the legendary hero ever formed? To that, Rai tells him not to concern himself with human legends or their stories about heroes. For her, she wants to make this agreement simply because she wants to eat Ryo's curry, and that's something he can be more than proud of. To be fair, Ryo points out that she also stopped the rain in the village, something he's grateful for. Rai promises to bring an apology gift later to make up for it. Alright, that's settled then. Ryo happily agrees to form the dragon contract with her. Rai shares the same sentiment, because this just means she could eat lots of curry. Now she instructs him to hold out his right hand, which he does. She takes his hand in his and starts chanting, and suddenly their joined hands light up. With that, she tells him that the dragon contract is done, so if he ever needs her, he just needs to call for Rai in his heart. The room illuminates again, and this time Ryo is seen sporting a new tattoo on his arm. This tattoo is proof of the contract, and it also signifies that from now on she and Ryo are friends. In Raya's case, she also tells him that she'll call him in his heart whenever she wants to eat curry. Our hero is fine with that as long as she doesn't do it while he's sleeping. With that, Rai tells them she'll head back to her nest for now and prepare something as an apology gift. The mayor thanks her for her kindness before she transforms into a dragon and flies away, but not before telling them that she'll come again tomorrow. With her gone, the mayor is relieved that things ended peacefully. Admittedly, that was the most nervous he's ever been in his life, and coincidentally, Ryo felt the same. But from the looks of it, there won't be any more floods, which is a good thing. And more than that, they were also able to build a relationship with Lady Rai. The older man thanks Ryo for coming because this was only possible due to him. Ever so modest, Ryo replies that he only did what he could. As for Rai, she's still thinking about curry in the midst of flying and mumbles how it's a nostalgic taste. The day after Rai left, a carriage hurriedly made its way to the village. Lund immediately gets down and asks Ryo if the village and everyone else are alright. Damien knows for sure that the dragon flew straight to the village, asking our hero if the creature passed by without stopping. Ryo answers that the dragon did come, and before he could continue, Yuffie had her doubts because there's no way the dragon came by and everything is still fine, also prompting Emile to ask what happened. Honestly, Ryo doesn't even know where to begin, but since the witch's staff awaits his answer, he decides to relay everything that happened yesterday. So yeah, Ryo goes ahead and narrates the happenings from yesterday. Once he was done, the adventurers were all left feeling in disbelief. How could they not? They had a hard time processing the fact that Ryo became friends with the dragon, and as much as it's hard to believe, it really did happen. The tattoo on Ryo's arm is proof of that. Damien can only commend Ryo for being such an extraordinary person. Suddenly, Emile's ears perk up and she alarms everyone that the dragon is coming. It's heading straight toward them. The adventurers hurried to make their way outside, just in time for Ryo to land. Lund and his crew eye the dragon warily, while Ryo tries to explain the reason for the dragon's return. But when Ryo saw them, she remembered they were the adventurers she played with last time. She transformed into a little girl, apologizing for what happened that day. As an apology, she came bearing gifts. The shock on Lund's face was priceless. So Ryo dumps her gifts at their feet, urging them to take whatever they like. There's a treasure chest, a sword, a crown, and curious knickknacks on the pile. This is actually her treasured collection that she's very proud of. Ryo leans over and checks the items, wondering if there's anything in there that they could sell for a good price. On the other hand, there's Lund and Damien, who are still caught up with Rai's transformation. They still can't believe this little girl before them is the rain dragon, and she's terrifyingly strong too. Back to Rai, she starts rummaging through her pile, excited to show this one thing, which she thinks is the coolest. Ryo frowns as soon as she pulls a katana out of the pile. According to her, this was the sword used by the hero they mentioned. Our hero, on the other hand, takes the katana in his hands. He just knows this is a Japanese sword. But before he could entertain some other thoughts, the mayor walked in, shocked, and asked if the hero's sword was real. Rai assures him that it's real. She received it herself. Personally, she would be much happier if someone else carried it rather than just staying with her. Ryo is still quiet, wondering if this is all just a coincidence or not. Ryo notices his silence just as the mayor approaches our hero, telling him that they can't turn something this valuable into money. so Ryo asks if Rai has anything that can be exchanged for cash. Oh, did they say money? Well, if that's the case, she hands them a diamond the size of a stone. Isn't it shining and sparkly? Sarah is quick to step up, asking if she could inspect it. According to her expert eyes, it's the real deal. This is a raw diamond. At this size, it's at least worth several 100 million krona. Rai is happy to hear that and urges them to just take whatever they like. Mayor Justin thanks Rai for gifting them 2 priceless treasures, and she's happy they liked them given how much trouble she caused. While everyone else was busy conversing, Rai asked Ryo if they could talk alone for a bit. They head outside where a nice breeze is blowing. Ryo tells her then that there's something he's been meaning to ask her, prompting the latter to turn and ask what. Ryo asks what kind of person the hero who wielded the sword is. She had a hunch that that's what was on his mind. But before she answers, she asks something too. The curry dish Ryo cooked before, did he invent it? Our hero explains that it's actually a dish from his homeland. Homeland, huh? Rai finds that strange. She has lived for a very long time and she knows almost everything in this world, yet she has never heard of curry before. Ryo was ready to explain, but Ri cut him off, saying she was just kidding. Honestly speaking, she was actually lying too. The truth is she actually knows curry, then asks Ryo if he came from another world. Ryo, you came from another world, didn't you? Ryo asks up front. Our hero was so dumbstruck by such a question that he turned away, asking what she was talking about. Him? From another world? Come on. But in his mind, given Ryo's terrifying power and the fact that she knows curry, then maybe she really is a hero. Sensing his reluctance, reassures him that she's not going to eat him or anything of the sort. If that's the case, then yes, Ryo admits that he indeed came from another world. She asks about the place where he came from, so Ryo obliges her, sharing that it's a place called Japan, on a planet named Earth. He'd like to explain more, but he doubts she'd understand. For Rai, it doesn't matter because knowing this piece of information just confirms that Ryo and the hero came from the same world. That person, the hero, told Rai many years ago that he came from another world, a country called Japan. Ryo is astonished to learn of this, while she continues how the hero went by the name Sky, but his real name was actually Sora. She remembers how he had a lot of rare and strange knowledge, with the dish curry being one of them, but just to be clear, she tells him that Ryo's curry is unmatched. Our hero points out that maybe the curry back then tasted different because they were the ones who cooked it. Upon hearing that, she frowns, because why does Ryo sound as if he didn't make his curry himself? Before he could answer, she followed up, asking if that's also one of his skills. Caught red-handed, he can only laugh because it seems nothing could get past Ray. Since they're already at it, Ryo decides to divulge his secrets. Upon hearing it, even Ray herself is impressed at his unique skill, allowing him to produce food from nothing. It completely surpasses the laws of this world. But then again, it also explains why Ryo's cooking is so delicious. In all honesty, she never expected to see a skill of this level again. Wait, did she say again? Ryo says he heard it right. Sky also has a similar skill, but unlike Ryo's, the former skills were dangerous. According to Ryo, once Sky drew his sword, no one could defeat him. Ryo's all too familiar with it. It's the invincible cheat power. Back to Ryo, she laments how Sky is nothing more than a children's fairy tale now. They have no idea of how much of an interesting person he truly was. She remembers the first time she tasted curry, eyes twinkling as she told him how delicious it tasted. Sky tells her that real curry tastes far better than what he cooked. Upon hearing that, Rai wished to try the real deal someday, prompting Sky to tell her that if he ever finds a way to return, he'll make it for her himself. As they sit together, she wants to hear more about his homeland, and the latter laughs, saying they'll be up again late tonight if he does so. Now Rai says there's hardly anyone left who remembers Sky's stories, and it's the one thing that pains her the most. This is precisely why she made a deal with Ryo, because she knows he's also from another world. She thought that if he's from the same homeland as Sky, then he might also do something interesting. Not only that, but she also admits that ever since Sky disappeared, she has felt empty. Speaking of, Ryo asks her if the hero Sky has ever found a way to return to his original world. In a quiet voice, Rai reveals that Sky died in this world. He never found a way to return to his homeland. Ryo looked grim when he heard that, so Rai told him that Sky lived happily in this world. If he wanted to, Ryo could live like that too. Besides, it's not certain that there's no way back. Maybe Sky just didn't find it, but she believes there must be a reason why they both came into this world. Ryo shifts his attention to the village, realizing that life has completely returned there. Rai adds that it's all thanks to the former's skill and knowledge. While they're talking, Sarah, Mayor Justin, and Luna smile at them, carrying the large pot as they go. Seeing their smiles, it makes Ryo think that maybe his role is to spread knowledge here. He may not be able to fight like the hero Sky, but he wants to make everyone smile with his own strength. So basically, he wants to spread culture, right? Rai admits that that's something the hero Sky couldn't do. And that's exactly what Ryo wants to do, to accomplish what the hero couldn't. Rai offers to help him if he wants, but in exchange she wants curry. Our hero can only sigh, because it looks like the Rai won't be giving up curry anytime soon. My village continues to flourish thanks to everyone's combined efforts to renovate it. And now it's one of the most anticipated times of the day, the time to eat. the villagers flock to the city hall, where Ryo and Sara are busy distributing today's food. Some of the children are already on their second bowl asking for a tanjiro refill while Rai demands another plate of curry. After serving everyone, lunch is done. The mayor thanks Ryo for working hard again today. As usual, our hero says it's not really a problem on his side. The older man gives him an update about the ongoing reconstruction work. As of late, everything is progressing at an incredible speed and it seems everyone is working hard thanks to the delicious food Ryo cooks. What's more, the diamond deal Rai arranged for them will also be pushed through. With that, they were able to secure the funds needed for reconstruction, and the village is nearly returned to how it used to be. Sarah is happy to hear such news, commending Mayor Justin for everything he's done. Of course, the mayor does not forget to give credit to Rai's treasures. The latter huffs, proud that her gifts were useful. Actually, Mayor Justin has another request for Rai. Still feeling high, she tells him to say whatever, and that's exactly what Justin says. In celebration of the village's reconstruction, the mayor and everybody else would like to hold a ceremony where the sword is presented by Rai. He believes that if this happens, then it will gain status as a sacred treasure of the village. After all, it will be handed directly by Rai, who traveled with the hero. Oh, that makes sense. She's on board with that. So Rai agrees and promises to do it, instantly lighting up Justin's face. But Ryo had a different picture in mind because that would only mean Justin would kneel and bow too low to her in the process. Will that be really prestigious to look at? Trivial matters aside, Rai is excited, asking when the ceremony will take place. Well, now that she mentions it, Justin actually has another matter he'd like to consult with them. Rai asks if they lack anything, with the mayor explaining that they would like to hold an event alongside the ceremony, something that brings joy to the villagers. Thanks to Rai honoring her promise, the village has returned to normal. However, there are still many people who feel uneasy, which is why they're having a hard time thinking of what they should do to appease those feeling uneasy. Coincidentally, around this time every year, the village holds a festival. This year, they'd like to make it a grand celebration that lifts everyone's spirits. Given that it's the most important festival of the year, they're not quite sure what would be best. Once she heard that, Rai couldn't help but feel guilty because of the trouble she caused. To be fair, the mayor doesn't blame her, though he and the others were hoping she might have a good idea. Well, she does have one idea. How about holding a curry party? If everyone eats lots of curry, they'll be full of energy. Ryo almost gagged when he heard that. Be honest, she just wants to eat curry for herself, right? Ryo takes offense at that because she really is serious about it. Before they bicker some more, Justin steps in and tells them to calm down. In all honesty, Ryo's suggestion is much better than continuing to worry. As the head of My Village, it pains him to see the villagers' anxious faces. Admittedly, though, he finds it embarrassing that he's not good at coming up with fun events. So they're back to square one. Ryo thinks of festivals, then asks Justin what they usually do at festivals in this region. The older man says they mostly do music performances, dancing, and serving traditional foods. Sara says her village is about the same, while Justin asks what kind of festivals Ryo has back at home. He thinks for a bit and remembers there's a lot of dancing and drums, as well as many food stalls. When he was younger, what he enjoyed the most was walking around and tasting different foods. Wait a minute, he finally thought of a suggestion. How about they hold a festival like the ones he has in his hometown? It's called an Anichi festival, a traditional Japanese festival with popular food stalls. So this Anichi festival that Ryo speaks of, what exactly is it? Neither Sara nor Mayor Justin has any idea what that event is. Ryo explains that this festival from his hometown has a lot of stalls lined up where people walk around, tasting lots of different food. Apart from that, there are also game stalls where people can scoop goldfish or catch colorful balls for fun. In the summer, everyone gathers around a raised platform and dances together. He even fondly recalls an uncle from his neighborhood who made a delicious dish called takoyaki. Both Sara and Luna find the festival strange, and it is their first time hearing about it. The mayor, on the other hand, points out that setting up stalls would require people and materials. Based on what our hero said, this festival of his seems to be a lot of work. Hearing that feels a bit disheartening for Ryo, who asks if it's impossible to recreate it here in My Village. On the contrary, the mayor thinks it would create an incredibly lively atmosphere. He believes it's worth trying it out first before ruling it out, since it might be just what My Village needs right now. Besides, when Ryo was talking about Anichi, Justin noticed how happy our hero looked, which made him want to see that scene too. Ryo couldn't be more thankful, so they began to learn more about the details of Ryo's festival. So they begin the roundtable meeting for the planning and explanation of the Anichi festival. Simply put, Ryo explains that Anichi involves setting up various food and game stalls. It will also create job opportunities for the villages and may help with reconstruction. Sara and Luna understand the benefits, but the former can't help but ask if their biggest challenge is preparing stalls and prizes. Ryo volunteers to prepare the stalls and ingredients, but for the prizes that may be too difficult for him. Ryo chimes in, saying she'll take care of it. If they're thinking about games that make children happy, then she already has plenty of ideas in mind. Both Ryo and the mayor eye her warily because really, prizes from Rai? All they could think about was that pile of treasure junk she gave them last time. But just kidding. Ryo says they'll rely on her for that part, but in his mind he can't help but wonder if it really will be okay. As for the costs, Mayor Justin says they can cover them with the diamond funds Rai gave last time, so at least they're settled with their finances. But just to be sure, he asks Rai if she's okay with them using the funds like that, and of course it is for her. Rai finds that this is also a good opportunity for her to apologize to the villagers. Sarah volunteers to handle the budget and project plan, admitting that she too is also starting to get excited the more she hears about Anishi. Ryo's more than happy to let her take over on that aspect. Conducting Anishi here may have started as a passing idea, but so far it's coming together smoothly. This leaves him feeling hopeful at the thought of experiencing Anishi again. As soon as the meeting finished, Ryo and Sara bumped into the witch's staff. The adventurers were curious to know what the two discussed. The two filled them in on how they were planning to hold a festival from his hometown here in My village. Sounds fun, right? Since they're talking, Ryo asks if Lund and the others would be willing to help them. The witch staff's leader replies that as much as they'd love to help, they need to return to Solon City at once. Damien and Yuffie add that they also need to report the Rain Dragon matter to the guild. Upon hearing that, Ryo suggests sending a letter instead. To that, Damien points out that they have no means for a mail service, but Ryo has it covered. In his stall, he conjures his item box, explaining to them that with this skill of his, he placed another copy of the stall in their shop in Solon. That way they can share the contents of the item boxes between them. This also just saves them the trouble of going back and forth, since they can just send a message through the stall. Lund is in awe of this spatial magic that can send items across such a distance. In his mind, he has never heard of such a skill, not even in inherited legends, let alone in S rank. It's just as he thought, Ryo really is no ordinary man. Just then, Rai comes running and informs Ryo that the preparations for the festival are ready, but more importantly, she's starving. He apologizes and suggests they start the festival food tasting now, informing everyone present that they'll treat them all to the dishes. Ryo prepares the takoyaki pan, which Sara and the others curiously inspect. They're curious to know what our hero was going to make after all. He's ready to start cooking, but first he checks his status. He conjures the equipment needed and notices that he actually leveled up for the first time in a while. Sarah is excited to know what he can make this time, and even Ryo is shocked to discover that he can use new festival stall skills now. Looking at it, these new skills are completely festival-exclusive skills. Is it because he decided to hold an Anichi festival? Do his skills really work that conveniently? Well, whatever, at least it came at the right time. Actually, it's too convenient and it's starting to scare him. Honestly though, he didn't expect he'd even be able to transform into a takoyaki stall, and it even comes with a regular hot plate, just like a special takoyaki pan. It's exactly how he remembered Anichi festivals back at home. First he pours the batter made with creation magic into the pan. Since he can't make seafood, he decides to use cheese as a filling. He expertly flips the takoyaki as one side starts to cook. Usually they add dashi broth too, but since they don't have that, he decides to just cover it with thick sauce and mayonnaise. Et voila! Takoyaki, grilled cheese balls are ready. Of course, Sarah and Rai are at the forefront of the dish. Rai is excited to take a bite, with Ryo warning her that it's still really hot. As soon as she did, she cried out about how delicious it was. Sure, it's hot, but it's soft inside. Sarah has no idea that there was food that pairs well with the sauce Ryo made. Lund also adds that the heat is irresistible, and he is particularly amazed by the mayonnaise in it. Okay, with cheese balls done, Ryo moves on to the next dish. Damien watches and notes how Ryo is using the same kind of batter. Our hero assures him that it may look similar, but this time he'll serve something different. He mixes finely chopped cabbage into the batter, then spreads it into a circle on the griddle, placing slices of pork on top. He expertly flips it, then ta-da! Okonomiyaki is finished. Sarah and Rai also find the dish delicious, and it's even more filling. Sarah likes this one better than the grilled cheese balls. Well, Ryo knows it's missing some ingredients, but at least he's glad that it turned out well. Since everyone is satisfied, he decides to go with this for now. Anyway, food tasting aside, Rai asks what kind of prizes Ryo wants for the games. As he said before, there are stalls where they can scoop fish or balls, so he wants fish or things that can float. If that's the case, Rai offers him a gomu fruit. When you drop it on the ground, it bounces in a fun way. So like a rubber ball, right? Sarah starts playing with it and finds that it's like a super rubber ball. Rai actually plays with it a lot when she's by herself. Hearing her say that made Ryo think of how much she sounds like a little kid right now. Now as for the fish, she suggests they could use a creature called a bita-bita. Emil chimes in and knows that there's an ornamental fish called a bita. It's small, beautiful, and easy to raise. They think it's perfect for the kind of stall Ryo is talking about. However, if they're talking about the fish's habitat, Ryo says they live in large numbers in the grassland forest. Plus, gomu fruit grows there too. Upon hearing the place, Lund tenses, asking Rai if he heard it right that it's in grassland forest. This prompts Ryo to ask them where this place is located, and all of a sudden the witch's staff have an unreadable expression on their faces. Lund asks if they were really heading to grassland forest, and Ryo answers that if they don't, then they won't be able to bring back the reward for the games. Sensing the former's hesitation, he asks if the place really is that dangerous. Lund tells him that it is indeed a dangerous place. It's an isolated land said to lie along the border. From what he heard, only a very few people have returned alive. Damien adds that the place is surrounded by a mountain range that rises up to 6,000 meters, so just reaching it is already a life-threatening journey. They also say that high-ranking monsters inhabit those mountains and no one can make it there safely. Basically, it's like throwing yourself to death. Ryo was almost taken by their explanation had Rai not intervened and pointed out one crucial fact that they seem to have missed. Sure, the place is dangerous and all if you're traveling on foot, but she can fly. Oh, the group's silence was so loud that Rai couldn't help but feel pissed off at them for forgetting the fact that she's a dragon. Anyway, Ryo asks her if it's really safe and Rai affirms that it is. The forest itself is a calm and beautiful place and she thinks it would make a wonderful vacation. That's it then. But first, Ryo asks Sarah if she would like to come with them. Since they've been busy every day lately, he suggests they should take this chance to relax. Sarah's eyes are already sparkling, excited at the idea of going there. If there's a chance she could, then she'll definitely take it. Still, she asks Rai if it's really okay with her to come along. The latter assures her that it's fine whether there are one or two more people, it is pretty easy for her. Plus, it's also one of her favorite places and she believes it would be a perfect spot for a romantic date. Blood rushes quickly to Sarah's face, asking Rai what she means by that, but the dragon lady has already moved on. Lund asks Rai one last time if it's really okay, with Damien wondering if at least one of the adventurers should accompany them. Rai assures them that it's fine, she is the rain dragon. Whatever happens, all she needs to do is glare at them. But she didn't get to finish what she was saying because Luna cut her off mid-sentence. No, eh? Sarah asks her sister why, and her no also made Rai wonder if she was really that unreliable. Luna explains that the region has long been considered a forbidden land and it has been feared since ancient times. So even if Rai is with them, it's a hard no for her. Mayor Justin chimes in and points out that they say the forest itself is safe, to which Luna points out that her sister is not an adventurer. She doesn't have any combat skills, so what if something happens? Luna refuses to let her precious sister go somewhere that dangerous. Well, if she were that worried, Rai suggests Luna come along as well. If it's like that, then there won't be any problem, right? That's not really Luna's point, but still. She asks Rai if Sarah won't be in danger. Rai guarantees that there won't be even the slightest danger. Even the mayor urges Luna to go with them. If Rai herself says it's safe, then she should go. After all, she is finally reunited with her sister, and they've both been busy lately, so for once they should go and enjoy themselves. Okay, fine. Luna decides she will go, but only because she's worried about Sarah. The latter, on the other hand, is reeling because, yay, her sister is coming. So with things finally settled, they're finally going. They'll depart tomorrow morning, so Ryo advises them to pack their luggage. The next morning, Ryo stores their luggage in his item box, and with that, the four of them bid Mayor Justin farewell. Ryo tells them to back away for a bit as she transforms into a dragon. One moment she lights up and the next she's in her majestic form. She instructs them to climb on her back, with Luna and Ryo helping Sarah up. As she gets into position, she comments on how no matter how many times she sees Rai's dragon form, she still finds it breathtaking. With everyone settled, Ryo gives Rai the go signal that they're ready. Alright then. She tells them to hold on tight as she flies high into the sky. Rai bolts straight up, leaving the three yelling in surprise as they rise higher. She was quick to add that they'll switch to horizontal flight soon. And yeah, that sudden rise left the three of them feeling terrified. Ryo even thought that his face might get ripped by the wind at one point. Rai tells them that they can lift their heads now, and as soon as Ryo does, he looks over the scene before them. The former explains that the grassland forest is located just beyond the mountain. Rai carefully lands on a clearing at the grassland forest, happily turning to Ryo and the others to say that they made it. But unlike her, they're not too enthusiastic, seeing how their journey is too cold for their liking. Sarah even thought she was going to die for a moment there. Ryo helps Luna get down from Rai while Sarah sets her eyes on the infamous grassland forest. Rai transforms into a girl and assures them that there are no monsters here, so they can relax. The sisters are too preoccupied admiring the view, with the flowers stretching all the way to the horizon. So is this the legendary forbidden place? Looking at it right now, it feels like a dream. Ryo thanks Rai for bringing them here, and the Lady Dragon says it's no biggie. Although there are no monsters here, Rai's a bit stressed at how Sarah is already wandering off on her own. Can you blame her? The berries she had just seen looked so delicious. With her eyes zeroed on that, she asks Rai if the fruit is edible. Oh, actually the fruit of that flower is what they're looking for. The gum fruit. Wait a minute, looking around they notice that it's actually growing everywhere. Sarah bolts and tells them she'll go ahead and gather some, and she didn't even hear her sister telling her to wait for a bit. Luna can only sigh because what else is there to do than follow in Sarah's lead. Thus began their group's gum fruit picking activity. Sarah can't believe that this rare plant actually grows abundantly here, and according to Rai, there's no better place for gum fruit to grow than here, in the grassland forest. But more importantly, Sarah wonders if they can make money by selling this. She was about to ask Ryo about it, but Rai beats her to it, with the latter saying Sarah's eyes have turned into money already. Luna laughs, seeing how her sister is excited as usual. It's like she has not changed at all. Ryo asks her then if Sarah has always been like that. The latter answers that her sister has a mischievous side, asking Ryo if Sarah has caused him any trouble. On the contrary, our hero says Sarah is the one who always helps him. If it weren't for her, then Ryo wouldn't be who he is today. At least that part, he's sure of. He goes on to say how Sarah was his first companion when he came from a distant land for certain reasons. To him, she's someone precious. He even goes as far as to call her his lifesaver. Luna only smiles and is pleased to know that Sarah has met a good person. Speaking of which, Sarah and Rai approach them with their gom fruit harvest, and they manage to pick a lot. She saw her sister and Ryo talking from where they were and asked the latter what they were talking about. Ryo jokingly says they were talking about how Sarah always eats work meals so enthusiastically, making Sarah flustered. What is he even saying? Luna smiles at their banter, then tells her sister that she's relieved to see Sarah working hard. But since Ryo mentioned Sarah speaking enthusiastically, she remembers when her sister was much younger, she used to sneak food. That catches Ryo's attention. He wants to hear more, but Sarah is not having any of that. Instead of talking about her, she suggests they go and catch some fish. Rai leads the way, saying that around the area there should be a lake where the pita fish live. Oh, there it is. They found the lake soon after. Rai points them to the fish they're looking for, and it looks a lot like a betta fish. Plus, there are a lot of them. Rai suggests they start fishing, but wait, how do they catch it? Sarah asks if they should catch it by hand or use fishing rods. Answer, none of the above. Rai walks over to the water's edge and uses her magic to suck a water balloon filled with pita fish. She tells them if they're okay with this number since it's not good to catch too many of these fish. The trio can only stare back at her with their jaws dropped. Guess that's a yes. Soon enough, the sun is already starting to set. Their group gets ready to camp, with Ryo already having a fire going. Sarah and Rai were tasked with finding wood. Okay, it's time he starts cooking. Today, after a long time, he says he'll make a fancy camping meal. He holds garlic in his hand, but seeing that, Rai's not too excited. Is it really going to taste good with that in there? When Ryo said he'll make a stylish camping meal, Rai is a little apprehensive, asking what he plans to cook. But Ryo is too busy rummaging through his storage until finally he produces a mess tin. The sisters are curious about the item because it's not exactly a dish nor is it a pot, so what is it? Ryo explains that it's a cooking tool made for camping. It can be used as a pot or a frying pan. It's pretty versatile. Now it's cooking time. First, Ryo adds a generous amount of olive oil. Then he sautés minced garlic and chili peppers. He turns to Rai, asking if she has never eaten garlic before. The latter admits that she's never tried it. It smells funny, so it's not too appealing to her. Ryo doesn't push any further and resumes cooking. This time he produces pasta noodles and breaks them in half, adding them once the garlic changes color. After, he pours the water and seasoning, boiling the pasta. Wow! Sarah is amazed because she never thought it was possible with just those ingredients. Literal one-tin pasta. Who knew meals could be cooked this easily? Ryo points out that this is what camping meals are like, mostly easy to cook. Be that as it may, it still looks fun in her eyes, and Ryo agrees that it's part of the enjoyment. After a few minutes, he says it's about time. He takes the tin out of the fire and voila! Mess tin pepperoncino is done. Rai takes the dish in her hands, viewing it with twinkling eyes. For the longest time she thought garlic smelled weird, but now that it's cooked it smells so good. Luna, on the other hand, is impressed at how simple the dish is and at the fact that the simplicity is what brings out the flavor. Plus, eating it outside makes it even tastier. Rai digs in, and it's as delicious as it looked. This pepperoncino pasta really boosts one's appetite. But what's more shocking to her is that she avoided garlic all this time just because she's biased. Of course, the ladies asked for seconds given how they wolfed down Ryo's cooking in a flash. Ultimately, Rai is the only one left eating. With Ryo by her side, he asks if she still wants more when he notices Sarah and Luna conversing a few feet ahead of them. Rai notices the change in Ryo's expression and asks what he was looking at. He tries to brush it off but eventually admits that he feels a bit jealous whenever he thinks about how he might not be able to return to his original world. Then he sees Luna and Sarah. They have each other talking to their family easily like that, and it also makes him wonder if the hero Sky ever felt the same way he does now. Rai tells him that Sky was sad at first, but eventually he learned to accept his fate. Plus, unlike Sky, she points out that Ryo has many people he could rely on. As the hero's companion, Rai admits that even she used to listen to Sky's worries a lot. Ryo never expected that, while Rai continues that Ryo only ever seems to talk to Rai about these kinds of things. This prompts her to ask if this is enough for him. This conversation only fortifies Ryo's decision. Rai is right, he can't hide the truth forever, especially not from Sarah, who's always by his side. Ryo thanks Rai for this pep talk because now he feels like he has sorted his thoughts a bit. And she's also right that he shouldn't stay sad forever. Rai is pleased, and this is just as she expected. Maybe this is the reason why he was chosen and brought to this world in the first place, no? Ryo thanks her again, but Rai is already back to holding the mess tin, crouching over something. Right, this little pep talk just made her want to eat more. But suddenly she's alarmed because of a new discovery. It's curry pepperoncino. With the dish in her hand, she claims this is the groundbreaking invention of the century. But instead of sharing her excitement, Ryo makes a face and starts to think that maybe it's not a good idea to consult with Rai anymore. The next morning, Sarah wakes up early only to find Ryo is already up and about. As she gets out of the tent, she sees that he already has a fire going and is having his morning coffee. He greets her with a good morning while she asks if he had just woken up too. As a matter of fact, he did actually. And the reason is that he wanted to quietly enjoy the view for a bit. So Sarah joins him while drinking in the serene scenery before them that fateful morning. She comments on how the grassland forest is truly a wonderful place, and it makes Ryo happy that they pushed through and came here. Now that she realizes it, Sarah says it's been so long since she was able to relax like this. Well, that much he can attest to. He saw her get pretty busy the whole time with the shop and reconstruction of My Village. But this little thing they have going on almost feels like a date to Ryo. Just then, he remembers his conversation with Rai yesterday about how he only seems to open up and talk to her. Now her question rings loudly in his head. Even Ryo knows things can't go on like this, which is why he decides to tell her now. He begins by saying there's something important he wants to tell her, and the seriousness of his tone catches her off guard. She asks what it is, and before he reveals his secret, Ryo shares that he decided to do this after having a little talk with Rai yesterday. See, it's something so important that he can't tell anyone but her. Hearing that kind of made Sarah feel special, as Ryo says that this is about his hometown. But before he could start, Sarah was already spiraling. What's all this about? With Rai? Something important about Ryo's hometown? Huh? Wait, could they be visiting Ryo's father in his hometown? So Sarah cuts him off and tells him that she's not mentally prepared yet. Our hero, on the other hand, insists that maybe Sarah would want to hear this, but no. Sarah tells him a little too loudly that she believes meeting his parents is too soon. As if on cue, Rai walks out of the tent yawning, once again present during an important moment. Her sudden appearance scared Sarah, while Rai rambles on about how they're so noisy this early in the morning. What were they even talking about? At that, Ryo says they'd better have this conversation some other time then while he talks to Rai. As always, the latter is already hungry for food. So now Sarah is left to mull over the events of what just happened. So Ryo wants to tell her something important that he can't share with anybody else. That can't be true, can it? She watches Ryo and Rai interact, with Rai already getting impatient about the food and Ryo scolding her that she should help out a little. After breakfast, they settle onto Rai's back as they prepare to head back to My Village. Before taking off, she asks if anyone has forgotten anything, but Sarah assures her that they're all good to go. With that, Rai spreads her wings and kicks off with a whoosh. Ryo had to tell her to fly slowly, but doing that is also hard on her part. Meanwhile, Luna takes in the view from above, muttering about how she never knew grassland forest was this beautiful. Rai replies that this is why it's one of her favorite places, and if they want to, she can bring them back here anytime. Sarah perks up upon hearing that, asking if that's allowed. But to Rai, she teases Sarah, claiming that the latter must have enjoyed this little trip so much that she thought it was a date. Of course, this makes Sarah flustered again. She goes all defensive while Ryo asks what they were talking about. Sarah's getting too loud, so Rai had to tell her to be quiet or else she won't be able to fly properly. Just then, Ryo hears that familiar level up sound. He quickly pulls up his status screen. And what's this? He actually acquired a new skill. Rai hasn't even been in the air for long when she tells them that they're about to reach My Village soon. Speaking of, Sarah wonders if the festival preparations are going well. Ryo shares her concern and only hopes that everything is going smoothly. They pass through the clouds, of which the village lies on the opposite end, and there it is. Even from above, they could see that the villagers are working hard and that the stalls are in position. They fly over the village, with Rai musing how she's surprised to see the event venue already set up like that. Ryo is pleased to see it coming along nicely. For him, it feels like he's come back to his hometown. Luna is also happy because it's been a while since she has seen the village this lively. Rai lands and word quickly got around of Ryo and the others' return. Mayor Justin welcomes them, relieved to see them safe, while Sarah points out how she is with how much the village has changed. Even Justin himself is surprised too, seeing as how this is the most effort the village has ever put in its entire history. Plus, he's happy to report that they also got the thing Ryo wants to see the most, the stage where Ryo will present the hero's sword. Oh ho! Ray's eyes twinkle as she finally sees the stage where she will be presenting the sword. Justin also adds that the other adventurers helped build it, and it turned out to be quite a grand platform. Ray had just started to go off about how this might be a bit small for a grand ceremony performed by someone great like her, but she didn't get to finish because the kids appeared, crowding around Ryo. They want to know all about Grassland Forest, asking if he found anything rare. True enough, he did. He shows the kids the sticky gum fruits and the pita fish. Their excitement died down because what exactly are they going to do with these at the festival? Well, that's a perfectly good question. So Ryo demonstrates what will happen. He begins by saying that this is a must-have game at the festival stalls, pouring water and the fish into a large tub. Then he shows them how it's done. Using a tool called poi, he places it under the water and catches one of the fish. And that wraps up his live demo of sticky fishing. While the kids are impressed, Rai believes even she could dominate this children's game. If it's just catching one small fish, then it's super easy. She grabs the poi and quickly flicks it into the water, but she didn't get to catch the fish since the poi tore. Rai tries again, and again, but she couldn't catch a single one. She finally stops and asks Ryo if the poi are defective items, so the latter explains that it actually takes some skill to catch the fish using that. Their happy moment got cut short when one of the villagers came running, telling everyone that a monster had appeared very close to the village. A monster? During this time? The villager is worried because at this rate there could be damage. Mayor Justin gives the order saying they should inform the rest of the village ASAP. He orders everyone to stop work at once and for everyone to evacuate. The people quickly scatter and are about to do so when Rai senses that the monster is actually already here. True enough, the beast appeared with a roar. At the sight of it, Ryo pales, while one of the village kids, Claire, runs away with her eyes closed. She didn't know she was running straight into the monster. The monster already had its fangs out ready to attack, so Claire could only brace for it, only to realize something was blocking the monster from getting to her. It was Rai. She transformed into a dragon and put herself between the two. Using her tail, she whacks the monster and sends it flying further into the forest. Wow, that's amazing! Rai huffs, muttering about how that small fry should know its place. A loud cheer erupted as everyone started praising Rai. Amazing! She's a true hero of the village, as expected of the hero's companion. Claire also thanks Rai and the latter relishes the cheers, saying that it's no biggie, but actually Claire has a request for her. With that, Rai leans closer as the girl whispers something into the dragon's ear. Oh ho, Rai gets it now, that definitely sounds interesting. Work on the festival preparations resumed once the monster was taken out. Now that Ryo is back, he oversees everything and commends everyone for doing a great job and encourages them to keep doing what they're doing. He turns to the members of the witch's staff and asks them to continue setting up the stall. Lund says he will handle it, while Damien will see that the decorations will be done. As for Emil and Luffy, the latter says they'll check the taste of the food and the condition of the tools. Huh? Wait a minute, isn't that just an excuse for her to taste food while walking around? Emil makes a run for it, with Damien chasing after her. Anywho, Lund says they'll handle the stalls, so Ryo can only thank the adventurer's leader. Now all that's left is the stage. Ryo and Sarah will continue working on it, but before they can do so, a couple of villagers call him over. Okay, so the thing is, the shooting game Ryo suggested turned out to be more popular than they expected. As such, they're worried that they won't have enough prizes. Plus, they're also short on manpower for construction. Ryo checks his list while the other guy is wondering if it will be hard to fix that now. Thankfully, Ryo says they can manage. He tells them that he'll have the stalls share the remaining prizes, and they'll postpone some schedules to distribute the workers better. He promises to arrange everything so they won't bump into any problems. The villagers are relieved to hear that. It's a big help. Just then another villager approached Ryo asking for help. The day went on like that, with Ryo going around checking everyone's progress and being pretty much hands-on with the festival preparations. Sarah sees him working hard and smiles. As soon as he's done dealing with them, Sarah hands him a drink and commends him for his hard work. He smiles because this is the kind of thing he used to do before he came to Solon. Talking about him aside, he's curious about Rai because he hasn't seen her, so he asks Sarah if she has. Actually, Sarah also hasn't seen Rai today, when suddenly she notices the little dragon lady is actually with the kids. Ryo waves and catches her attention. What's she doing there? Rai runs over to them as Ryo asks her if something happened since they haven't seen much of her. The latter averts her gaze and simply states that she was just hanging around with the kids for a bit. Huh? Since when did she get close to the village kids? At that, Rai is about to proudly say something when Claire clamps her mouth shut. A moment later, the rest of the kids came and dragged Rai back with them, and Ryo couldn't even put in another word. What the heck? What was that all about? From the looks of it, Rai must be planning something. Cut to the next scene, Sarah finishes the decoration of her area and tells Ryo. He replies that he's almost finished with his end too, and they both look at how the festival stalls are all lined up with people walking around. Now that things are really taking shape, Ryo can feel it starting to get on his nerves. This kind of reminds him a bit of when they first opened Solon Burger. Sarah laughs because she also feels the same. Still, she's pretty optimistic that things will turn out well. After all, isn't that what they also thought back then? With Ryo, she believes there's nothing to be worried about. He could say the same to her. With that, they're determined to make this festival a success. And now, a few days later, the day of the festival came. Everything is all set as Mayor Justin announces that they will now begin the opening ceremony. Mayor Justin begins by thanking everyone for attending today's festivities. Finally, the day has come, thus they will begin the Rain Dragon Festival. A month ago, the humble Maimai village was struck by a flood, but thanks to everyone's help it has returned to how it was before. And on top of that, they also formed new bonds. With that, he presents the Rain Dragon, Lady Rai. From behind him, the silhouette of Rai's dragon form looms over Justin as she glides over the festival before landing right behind the mayor. As soon as she does, Rai transforms into her human form. Both Ryo and Sarah are surprised because Rai looks different. Rai addresses the people of My village, introducing herself as the Rain Dragon. From the bottom of her heart, she apologizes for the trouble she caused by living in the forest. For that, she would like to offer them a token of friendship. She procures Sky's sword, telling everyone that it's the sword of the legendary hero. Everybody cheered when they saw this, while Rai continued that from this day forward he swore to protect My village from all disasters. Mayor Justin kneels and says they humbly and gratefully accept the sword. With this, he asks the Rain Dragon to grant her protection to My village. Everybody cheered once again, giving a round of applause to wrap up the ceremony. In the midst of the crowd, Ryo and Rai exchange smiles. Finally, the festival is here. Ryo is back to cooking duties, and just now, Sarah tells him the customer's order of 1 grilled cheese. 2 seconds later, it's done. The customer who ordered it couldn't believe what he was eating. It's so delicious. The harmony between the cheese and the sweet sauce is perfect. Another man chimes in, saying eating the grilled cheese just makes them want something to drink. He's right, now if only there were a beverage available around. Ryo actually also has that covered. Of course, the Sato Company has some beverages. He shows them the barrel of Sato Company's special beer. Some of the villagers gather around. Did they hear that right? Beer chilled with ice? What a rarity. Seeing ice in a rural village like this is pretty amazing given how there are no magicians in this village. Rai proudly tells them that she made the ice herself, and doing something like this is incredibly easy for her. Oh ho! So if the ice is made by the Rain Dragon, then it surely must be blessed. Some of the villagers put in an order, and Ryo tells them to wait for a bit as he pours their drinks. After a minute, he hands them their drinks and they take their first gulp. Pwah! It definitely refreshes the body. Heck, they never even knew that there was a beer this delicious. Soon enough, more villagers crowd around them asking for more, and Ryo happily gives them another. Soon enough, there's a group of male villagers enjoying beer right in front of their shop. Ryo is pleased and glad that he asked Rai for help, to which Sarah agrees. Just then, Emil and Damien appear. The two heard that the place is crowded, and it is indeed. Plus, the atmosphere is incredible. Ryo offers them beer, and the two gratefully accept. He also takes this moment to ask how the festival is going. Emil happily reports that it's lively everywhere. Damien, on the other hand, asks Ryo and Sarah if they have already gone around to check the venue. At that, Ryo replies that they can't leave the stall right now. Well, if that's the case, Emil and Damien offer to watch the stall. The former suggests Ryo and Sarah take a break and look around now. After all, things have calmed down. Ryo and Sarah decide to take them up on their offer, leaving the stall in Damien and Emil's hands. So Ryo starts walking, looking around. Sarah's late, huh? As soon as he thought of that, she appeared, apologizing for making him wait. And the reason why she's a little late is that she changed her outfit. Sarah ditched her noble clothes and wore a yukata, asking Ryo what he thought of it. He tells her that she looks amazing, and that just made her giggle, pleased to hear the compliment. They start walking around together, both happy because they never thought both of them could go around and explore the stalls at the same time. Now where to start? Well, isn't it obvious? They need to start with food. Sarah makes a run to the nearest stall and orders what they have. That's typical of Sarah. Meanwhile, the auntie serving her recognizes Sarah. So, is she out on a date with Ryo? The question flusters Sarah. But as it turns out, auntie was just teasing her. Not a minute later, she hands Sarah their food. Mushroom soup gathered from the forest. This is actually one of the village's traditional dishes. Sarah and Ryo like it, it tastes so comforting, and the vegetable flavor is really rich. They finish the soup and thank auntie before continuing with their stall exploration. Sarah spots the gom fruit catching game being played by children. The children also see them and ask to compete with them in catching gom fruits. Ryo is pretty confident with this because do they really think they can beat the master of ball catching? But the kids are pretty confident since they practiced a lot too. Even Sarah and the little girl are feeling competitive, vowing not to lose to the other. Famous last words. In the end, the only thing Sarah got was the consolation prize, a small gom fruit ball. Meanwhile, there's Ryo, gloating in his win. It looks like Sarah needs a lot more practice, huh? She didn't mull over her loss for too long because Sarah noticed a crowd was starting to gather at the stage. Curious, the two follow along. What's going on? Is something about to start? At this stage, the village kids stand as they are about to present the play, The Hero's Tale. These kids actually secretly practiced a lot, so they hope the villagers will stay and watch. Ryo turns to Sarah asking about The Hero's Tale, and she explains that it's the story she used to read to the children. Oh, so it's that revamped version of the legend of Momotaro. No? The play begins with the boy narrating how once upon a time, while a woman was washing clothes by the river, a large orange drifted down the stream. Mind you, while he narrates, an actual scenario of a giant orange drifts along the river. The villagers are impressed and curious, asking if they're using real water. Others are questioning if that's a real giant orange they're seeing. The kids continue their narration, and both Sarah and Ryo are both confused and in awe. Is this just an illusion? Or is all of this real? Suddenly, a shadow looms over them, and it's Rai. This time, one of the kids cosplays the hero and tells the Rain Dragon that they should defeat the Demon King together. A fight ensues, and before long the hero wins and everybody cheers. As soon as they're done, Rai transforms into her human form and asks Ryo and Sara what they think about the play. Our hero already had a hunch that Rai was using her magic earlier, while Sara commended the kids for doing a great job. The direction was indeed done with Rai's magic, but according to her that's not everything. They actually practiced repeatedly so they could sync with Rai's magic, and the kids worked hard every day to surprise everyone with the play. Thankfully their efforts didn't betray them because it was a huge success. The kids thank Rai for her help. Ryo is happy to see that Rai has gotten closer to the children, but the latter is a bit shy, acting all tsundere. According to her, she did it on a whim, nothing more. But Claire actually heard that and starts getting teary-eyed. So does that mean Rai didn't enjoy the play at all? Her reaction forced Rai to tell the truth as she revealed that she did enjoy it, so Claire shouldn't cry anymore. On the other hand, there's Ryo, curious about the orange. Did the orange actually come from the river? Rai reveals that Sky was the one who actually came up with the story, further confirming Ryo's suspicion that the hero took inspiration from Momotaro's story. The day went by so fast that soon it was Ryo and Sara's turn to get served chilled beer and grilled cheese. They settle on a park bench, with Sara proclaiming how the festival was really fun. Ryo is just happy that everything feels so lively everywhere. She attributes all of that to Ryo's efforts, and he admits that the reason why he worked hard is that he wanted to see this scene. Sara already knew that he would succeed, to which he replies that this is the first time he's heard of it. But Sara said she meant it the first time. Anyway, Ryo is happy to see that the villagers are also happy. Now then, he says it's about time for the final event. Sara is surprised because there's still more? Not a moment later, the sky lights up with fireworks. Sara looks wide-eyed because what is that? Ryo claps along, explaining that those are called fireworks. From where he came, it's a staple of festivals in her hometown. The sudden boom surprised her, but looking at them, they really are beautiful. Ryo says he added them when he returned from the grassland forest, secretly preparing to use them at the festival. He also got permission from Justin and the others to do it. Sarah pouts because does this mean Ryo kept it a secret from her all this time? In his defense, he wanted to surprise her. She's happy with it, but at the very least he should have let her prepare herself mentally. Sarah shifts her attention back to the night sky, asking if this is the kind of view he used to see back in his homeland. According to Ryo, there are some differences, but mostly it's the same. Looking up at it right now makes him feel nostalgic about it. Sarah then expresses her wish to see a festival from Ryo's homeland someday, and he could only nod. He wears a sad smile saying that if he could, he would take her there before looking back up. Ryo steeled himself. And then Sarah brought up that something he wanted to talk about before. Wasn't there something he wanted to say to her? Ryo tries to brush it off, but no, actually this may be the right time. He finally reveals that he's not from this world. He came from a different one. Sarah was quiet when she heard that, and then to his surprise she actually knew it. He's even more surprised that she actually believed her. Well, it's because she has never heard about everything Ryo said before. Plus, she finds his abilities quite unusual. She tried to investigate on her own, but there was so much she couldn't understand. For so long she felt something was always off, but now she finally knows why. Ryo sits back and heaves a sigh of relief. Sarah may not know anything about his original world, but for her it's already enough that she gets to work with Ryo. He smiles at her. Honestly speaking, he didn't expect that kind of reaction, but thank God it's over and he's finally at ease. Sarah adds that what she's about to say may sound a bit bad, but she's a little happy too that Ryo trusted her enough to tell the truth. No matter what, Ryo is still Ryo in her eyes. He thanks her, saying he's so glad that he met her too. With the festival finally over, Ryo and the others packed their bags the very next day. They thanked the people of Mai village for the warm welcome throughout their stay, but now, it's time for them to head back to Solon. Mayor Justin says they should be the ones thanking Ryo and the others. No words are enough to express their gratitude for what Ryo and his company did for the village. Ryo replies that they only did what they could, and Lund echoes that sentiment. Luna calls her sister teary-eyed as she tells the younger that she's happy to see Sarah again after all this time. The latter, on the other hand, is just as happy that she could help her sister. Luna is proud because her sister has become someone truly dependable. Luna then turns to Ryo and bows, asking him to take care of Sarah from now on. Ryo happily says he would, and that's when Luna takes this chance to ask something that's been bugging her. Are Ryo and Sarah in a relationship? Both became flustered at the same time. They quickly clarify that it's not like that, but Luna's not too convinced. Still, if they ever decided to get married, Luna suggested that they should have a big celebration here in the village. Sarah had to tell her sister to cut it out. This is too embarrassing. Just then, Rai rushes to the front and calls out to them. Hump, the little dragon lady, is not too fond of these sad goodbyes, and honestly, Ryo thought she wouldn't come and say goodbye. To that, Rai reminds him that they're bound by an unbreakable pact. She can reach him quickly if she flies, even if he's in Solon. Ryo is happy to welcome her and let her eat curry, as long as she doesn't fly inside the city, but more importantly, they're curious about what Rai will do from now on. Rai says she'll return to the nearby forest as usual, And duh, she still has to continue protecting my village as promised. Oh, before Rai forgets, she asks Ryo to give the King of Ireland her regards if he ever meets him. From what she heard, they say that he's a descendant of one of Sky's companions. Rai says the king may already know about Rai too, so if ever, Ryo can just show him the mark of the pact and he'll see the king's reaction. Rather than feel excited, Ryo's a little torn because this screams authority conflict. Looking at the mark of the pact right now, it makes him wonder if this thing is actually something dangerous. Anyway, that's enough dallying. Ryo tells everyone that they really should head out now and bids everyone goodbye. The villagers wave back at them, thanking them and telling them to be safe. Their wagon starts its journey and they realize that now they'll also be returning to their normal lives. Sarah wonders if everyone is doing well back in the city. As she looks out the window, she sees how much my village has improved. Heh, they really did it. They fixed the place pretty nicely. It's kind of hard to believe that this was the same place they arrived at not too long ago. Lund agrees, even he admits that he never thought they would be able to restore the village in just a month. He has spent many years as an adventurer, and yet he finds the things he saw recently hard to believe. He really finds Ryo an extraordinary man and invites him again to join the witch's staff. Like before, Ryo rejects it with a smile. But now that he thinks about it, Ryo realizes that they've been through a lot this past month. Plus he also discovered that the hero came from the same world as he did. Then he got to tell Sarah the truth about his origins. Just thinking about it all reminds him again how the hero Sky never made it back to their world. Ryo thinks that he too will probably never return to his original world. But that's okay. Now he has dear companions and a place where he belongs. From here on out, he'll continue spreading delicious food and the culture of this world. Anyway, all that's left for them to do is submit the report to the guild, and after that they should head back to their shop. Meanwhile, back in Solon, at Vestria Castle, reports have already reached Lord Cerrito's ears that Ryo and company have safely returned after completing their mission at my village. His butler is actually surprised because he didn't expect their group to succeed, while Lord Cerrito says it was the right call to entrust the mission to them. With this great achievement of theirs, the nobleman says they must extend an invitation to the Sato Company, holding a special invitation. As he said, at Solon Burger, Kane was minding his own business sweeping the storefront when Ryo and Sarah called out to him. They're back. Has everyone been doing well? Kane's face instantly lights up at seeing their familiar faces as he informs everyone that Ryo and Sarah are back. Inside, the rest of the employees crowd around them, expressing how much they missed the pair. They've been really waiting for them to return. Upon hearing that, Ryo jokes that Hana must have given the others a pretty hard time, but she assures them that she did not. More importantly, she's curious how the mission went. So Ryo spends the next hour or so relating everything that has happened during their mission. At the end of it, he's bombarded with even more questions about how he really made a contract with a dragon, what an S-rank adventurer was like, and what the grassland forest was like. Kane intervenes, trying to calm everyone and apologizing to Ryo on behalf of everyone for getting way too excited. Ryo intends to tell them all about their journey later, but for now, he wants to know how the shop is faring. Hana answers, admitting how they ran into quite a few problems while the two were away. First, they got into trouble with a few merchants who tried to intimidate them, but thankfully they're not the type to fall for that, so they managed to get through to the end. Plus, they now know that running the shop and handling the accounts were much harder than they expected. As a result, they now understand how much work both Ryo and Sarah have been carrying behind the scenes all this time. Oh, on a lighter note, Alan has completely become the shop's guard. God bless his scary face. Though Alan clarifies that he was just keeping an eye on things. As for Kudor, she has gotten so much better at cooking. She's proud to inform them that their lot has come up with many new spices. Well, just saying that alone got her an earful from Kane, as he gives her a scolding. Anyway, over the past month, Hana and the others realized once again just how amazing Ryo and Sarah are. Solon Burger just isn't Solon Burger without them. Hearing that just made Ryo tear up and proud because everyone really gave their all to keep the shop up and running, huh? They have all become people he can truly rely on. But as the founder, Ryo can't just stand around and do nothing either. Alright, starting today, Ryo will resume working back at the shop so everyone can continue counting on him. He's already putting on his work clothes when Hana calls his attention. Actually, they have a guest right now, and the guest is none other than Lord Cerrito and the Guildmaster. The two are in the middle of having their meal when Ryo meets with them, with our hero stunned at how much weight the young lord has lost. It's all thanks to the diet menu Ryo prepared for him back then. Because of that, starting today, Lord Cerrito is now allowed to eat potatoes again. That's wonderful to hear, but Ryo knows that's not the only reason Lord Cerrito came here, right? The latter says that's true. Has Ryo even realized what he has done? They've received a detailed report from the members of the witch's staff, and as detailed as that is, Solon's lord wishes to hear the whole story from Ryo's own mouth. The guildmaster chimes in and mentions the rain dragon too. So Ryo shows them the tattoo on his right arm, the very proof of a dragon contract. The guildmaster verifies it, and it matches exactly what's written in the books. So it wasn't just a legend after all. Ryo explains how the rain dragon happened to like his cooking by chance, so the dragon, whose name was Rai, became his friend. Lord Cerrito finds that hard to believe. A human being friends with a legendary creature. It's just as he thought, dragons are on a whole different level. Anyway, the guildmaster came to the shop today to discuss that dragon contract with Rio. What happened is something unprecedented in recorded history. Therefore, the guild will treat this matter as a top-secret issue. With that said, he asks our MC to avoid revealing it as much as possible. In his mind, Rio makes a mental note to tell everyone to keep this a secret. But Lord Cerrito claims that His Majesty the King of Ireland must be informed. A matter involving a dragon cannot be concealed from him, after all. Now that got Rio worried because it's the king. Will everything be alright? Lord Cerrito thinks it will be fine, most likely. That doesn't sound convincing. Anyway, the young lord believes that it's unlikely that the king would look down on the first person to make a contract with the dragon since the hero's era. If anything, he also promises to use the influence he has to support the Sato company. After all, Rio is a dear friend of his. Anyway, that's pretty much everything Lord Cerrito needs to tell him. As for the mission reward, it will be transferred to the company's account. His lordship stands and urges Rio to get some rest. He's sure that he'll be asking for Rio's help with other matters later on. Just like that, Lord Cerrito and the guildmaster take their leave. As Rio watches their carriage pull away, he wonders what task the young lord wants him to do. Whatever it is, it looks like Rio is about to get caught up in even more trouble again. It's back to business at Solon Burger, literally. Rio and Sarah are busy, working alongside the others as they're swamped with customers today too. As Rio hands the customers their orders, he thanks them for their continuous patronage, and even Sarah is starting to get dizzy with how busy they are. At the counter, Hana instructs Alan to take the orders. Kane then relays another hamburger order to Kutor, and thankfully she's already on it before he even says it. Looking at them in action, Rio can definitely say that everyone has gotten so much better at their jobs. Alright, he can't let himself fall behind. He also puts in the effort to match the rest of the crew here at Solon Burger. Just like that, today's shift ended. Rio commends everyone for their great work today too, thanking them for their efforts. Phew! His body was a little stiff so he struggled a bit, but thank God everyone here is so dependable. Kane, on the other hand, tells him that having the boss here gives them peace of mind. Speaking of the boss, Cooter approaches their boss asking if she could have a little of her time. Rio turns to her asking what's up, and Cooter tells him up front that she'd like to challenge him. With twinkling eyes, she wants Rio to try her brand new masterpiece that she poured her heart and soul into. Watching boss Rio and Sarah and seeing everyone work hard made Cooter want to create something that would help them too. Any boss would be delighted to hear their crew taking the initiative, so Rio accepts Cooter's challenge, much to the latter's delight. She begins by showing the star of today's show, a sponge cake. She found the ingredients inside Rio's toolbox. On his part, he did remember that the recipe and ingredients for this were included in his cooking magic. Cooter starts by cutting the sponge cake horizontally in half, then proceeds to arrange the fruits nicely between the layers. Lastly, she drizzles it with Cooter's special syrup, and it's done. She calls this one a fruit burger. Sarah and Hana take a piece and share their comments about the fruit burger. Sarah notes how the sponge cake is soft and sweet, plus the tartness of the fruit goes perfectly with it. Hana believes this one will be a hit, as expected of Cooter. But then again, Sarah points out that the sponge cake is so sweet. Hana also believes that this would be more of a luxury treat that people enjoy once in a while. After hearing their comments about the fruit burger, the cogwheels in Ryo's mind are already turning. Cooter asks him then if he didn't like the fruit burger, and he quickly answers that that's not the issue. He has a suggestion. Won't it sell better if they made it into a whole cake instead? Huh, cake? Everyone repeats in unison, puzzled. Oh, these guys don't know what cake is. Rio tells them then that there's a delicious dessert called cake. How about he tries making one so they can understand it better? Rio gets to work. First he makes whipped cream, then adds sugar to the fresh cream. Sarah watches him from the side, curious, while Rio continues to whisk the ingredients to achieve a certain consistency. After whisking for some time, he achieves his desired consistency. Next, he spreads it over the sponge cake and arranges the strawberries on top. Then he generously decorates the top as well. Sarah frowns because isn't that too much? Still, Rio continues on, and for the final piece, he puts strawberries. And it's done! They now have a strawberry shortcake. Kane and Cooter take a closer look at the cake. Huh, so something like this can exist in this world, huh? What a marvel. Anyway, Rio suggests everyone take a piece and try it. They each take a piece, hesitant but still take a bite of Rio's cake, with Sarah in the lead. As soon as they take a bite, everyone remains quiet. This is not quite the reaction Rio is hoping for. He was about to ask them what they think when Sarah asks if she could talk to him for a bit. Well, yeah, go ahead. She asks him then how much he plans to sell this for. Huh, are they already discussing numbers? Anyway, Rio thinks maybe just a little more than the fruit burger, but Sarah instantly shoots the idea down. There's no way he can sell this cake for that price. Finally, Solon Burger launches a new product, Fruit Burger. The counter is packed, with customers ordering the newest item left and right. During this time, both Rio and Sarah are manning the counter and continuously handing out the customers' orders. Just then, he informs Cooter that he's placing another 10 orders of those fruit burgers, with Cooter more than happy to do it. They'll be ready in no time as she excitedly works on the dish. Similar to Sarah and the others yesterday, they enjoy this new dish. It's sweet, absolutely delicious, and it looks good to boot. What do you know? Even Rebecca is here. You remember her as the spy from another burger shop, right? Even she admits that this was a brilliant idea to add to the dessert menu. Well played, Mr. Solon Burger. What's more, it looks so beautiful and incredibly appetizing. As much as she hates to admit it, it's only natural that it has become this popular. Suddenly, a carriage comes rushing through, forcing Rebecca to get out of the way. It stops right in front of Solon Burger, and out comes Modon, Lord Cerrito's butler. The older man apologizes if he interrupted Rio and Sarah at work. Be that as it may, he asks if he could have the usual fruit burger today as well. Rio asks in return if they enjoyed the new item, and Modon smiles. They enjoyed it very much, especially Lord Cerrito's younger sister, Sophia. Lady Sophia absolutely loved it, given how she has quite the sweet tooth. According to Modon, the young lady asks for it every chance she gets, and it's becoming rather troublesome. Rio, for one, is still hung up on the fact that Lord Cerrito has a younger sister. Why, he never even mentioned her. But if that's the case with Lady Sophia, then there's something Rio would really like to recommend to everyone. It's a type of dessert called cake. Flashback to a few days earlier when Rio made the cake for the first time, Sarah asks him how much he plans to sell the cake for. And when he told her the price, she told him outright that they can't sell it at the price he stated. Before he could ask, Sarah detailed how he's been adding sugar very generously, and sugar is extremely expensive. Even if he were able to produce sugar with his skill, if any other shop used this much sugar, then the production cost would be enormous. Does he have any idea what would happen if they sold something like this at a low price? A little terrified, Rio asks her what would happen then, and Sarah answers that the confectionery industry in Solon would completely collapse. With that said, she firmly suggests they make the fruit burger with bread instead of sponge cake. If it were like that, it wouldn't make their competitors jealous. And at worst, it could attract the guild's attention and even put the trading company itself at risk. Wait a minute, Kane is having war flashbacks. It's like what happened back then when some intimidating merchants came up to them at the store. Anyway, back to Sarah's point, if they were to sell it normally, they'd have to set the price extremely high. Given the current situation, Sarah doesn't think that's too realistic. Oh, Rio finally understands. It's quite disappointing, but they may really need to give up on cake. And that's when she tells him that they're selling it anyway, to Rio's surprise. She says it's too delicious, so there's no way they can not sell it. Rio just stares at her because finally she admitted how she really felt, huh? But here's the million-dollar question. How are they going to sell it? As usual, Sarah has a great idea. They will only sell it by pre-order, and they'll make it a secret menu item only known to those in the know with limited production. That way distribution won't be a problem, and as long as they don't sell it openly, then it would be fine. So, back to the present. Rio tells Modon that's how they ended up selling cake this way. The older man understands, and he's once again amazed at Rio. If this were the cake, Modon asks if he may try the cake as well. He'll let Rio know Lady Sophia's thoughts on it later. Of course, Rio is more than happy to do so and hands the cake to the older man. Modon already knows she will love it. With that, he takes his leave, but not before saying he looks forward to doing business with Rio again. Rio, on the other hand, says he awaits Modon's feedback on their secret item. As the carriage pulls away, Rio is still thinking about how he never knew Lord Cerrito had a younger sister. Just the thought of what she will say makes him nervous. He can only hope she likes it. At Solomstroia Castle, the young lady Sophia takes a bite of the cake and immediately starts shaking. This is unbelievably delicious. She runs straight to her brother, calling out to him in the hall as Lord Cerrito asks her what the matter is. She asks him if he knows of a shop called Solon Burger, and the latter replies that he does. It belongs to a friend of his, and their fries are second to none. Lady Sophia leans closer to her older brother, saying she has a request. Eyes sparkling, there's something she wants to tell his friend right now. Solon Burger wraps up their sales today, along with a sign on the door saying fruit burgers sold out today. Rio can't believe how busy they were today, so much so that he is still shaking. Poor Sarah is even seeing doubles now, noting how fruit burgers are as incredibly popular as ever. Unlike them, Cooter is still energized and continues to whisk away. Rio asks if she's not exhausted, and even Sarah notices how Cooter has been working hard on her training as of late. The oblivious Cooter has only one thing in her mind right now. She thinks she's starting to enjoy making sweets. This enjoyment most definitely shows up in her work, because look at this cake. It looks like it was made by a professional pastry chef. Rezu compliments her since she has a real knack for pastry making. She's happy to hear that and glad that her cake turned out so well. Just then, Sarah appears, informing Rezu that the Fostria family's carriage has arrived at the front of the shop. That's strange. Could it be that Modon came to buy something else? Rio heads to the front, fully thinking it was Modon, but what he didn't expect was that a dainty foot stepped out of the carriage belonging to a long-haired young lady, holding her dress up in a curtsy. Oh ho, so this is Solon Burger that she has been hearing about. Rio, Sarah, and Kutar only stare at this young lady until our MC asks who she is. Obviously, we already know her as Lady Sophia, and instead of answering him, she leans closer to Rio, asking if she's the one who invented the fruit burger. From behind, Lord Cerrito suddenly appears and pulls his sister back. He apologizes to Ryo for dropping by so suddenly as the young lord finally introduces his younger sister, Sophia. He tells them how she insisted on coming to the shop. Sophia gushes on about how she was truly moved by Solon Burger's cakes and fruit burgers, which is why she wanted to personally come and thank them. And then her ramblings begin. She notes how that fruit burger, that delicate pastry, has an innovative harmony with the fruit. And finally, the sauce. It was the perfect finishing touch for her, bringing out the flavors beautifully. Ryo can only listen, but boy does Lady Sophia talk fast, huh? He uses this chance to put Kutor in the spotlight, telling Lady Sophia that this girl is the mastermind behind the fruit burger. Sophia's eyes widen before she takes Kutor's hands in hers, gushing once again about how much she loves fruit burgers. The combination of the flaky pastry and fruit is astounding, and she has never tasted a dessert this delicious before. Looking at his younger sister like this, Lord Cerrito informs Ryo that it's very rare for Sophia to praise food this highly, which is exactly why he has a request he'd like to ask of Ryo today. He would like our MC to make Sophia's cake. That cake they served last time was the greatest culinary surprise Sophia has ever experienced. The moment she took the first bite, she knew she had to ask Ryo to make the cake for her birthday. What's more, Sophia is coming of age this year, so they'd like to make the celebration a grand one. They'll be holding a party at the castle and inviting distinguished guests from all over. Ryo does a quick check of his stats, and according to his skill, he can only make a size 4 round cake, which is roughly 12 centimeters in diameter. By the way, so what kind of cake does Sophia want? Of course, she answers that she wants a cake worthy of the Fostria name. She'd like it to be very large and beautiful, much taller than her, and beautifully decorated with cream. She's sure all of their guests will also love it. Ryo openly tells them that what she wants is extremely difficult, apologizing as he said so. Lord Cerrito understands and urges our MC to just do what he can. Still, he believes Ryo will succeed. Ryo tries to reason with him, saying a humble trading company like theirs isn't worthy of such an important task, but Lord Cerrito won't budge. Time and again, his lordship notes how Ryo has saved the Fostria family many times already, so he's practically a hero. There's no need to be so modest. While he's at it, Lord Cerrito hands him a letter of invitation. He'd like to invite Ryo and Sara to the birthday party as representatives of the Sato Trading Company. Lady Sophia adds that she's also looking forward to the cake, and with that said, what else could Ryo and Sara say but yes, sir? Once they're gone, Ryo slumps back to his seat, nursing his head. What is he going to do? His skills can't make a cake that big. Sara also wonders if such an extravagant cake can be made by hand. Ryo says he knows the theory behind it, but he can't actually do it. That's where the trouble is, because this is a personal request from Lord Cerrito himself. If they were to refuse, well, Sara doesn't need to say it, Ryo knows. Still, there's still one hope left. And with that, Ryo looks at Cooter, who is just so happy that the princess praised her. Ryo grabs Cooter by the shoulder, asking if she could make a cake for Lady Sophia. Ryo sits at the head of the table and puts the invitation letter in front of him, as they will now begin the special Sato Company meeting. The topic of today's meeting is preparing Lady Sophia's giant cake. They haven't even started yet, but Cooter's soul is already leaving her body. Kane is surprised by the fact that Ryo can't do it. Our hero admits that he can't, adding that he cannot make a cake any bigger than his current limit using his skill, so they'll have to make a special cake by hand without relying on his skill. With that said, he doesn't have the craftsmanship or artistic sense needed to design something like that. Be that as it may, there is someone who is perfect for this job. So he appoints Cooter to take charge of creating the cake. Cooter's cake-making skills have already surpassed Ryo's, and if anyone can make a cake, it's her. Still, Cooter herself doesn't think she's capable of handling such a huge responsibility. Kane has no objections to this, but he does wonder if the shop can manage. Hana shares his concern, as she thinks it will be difficult for Cooter to make the cake while keeping up with the current work schedule. That's when Ryo informs them that until the day of the party, Cooter will devote herself entirely to making the cake. In the meantime, they'll adjust their schedule, for example, by making some days dedicated to catering orders only. After all, Sarah stresses that this is the birthday party of the governor's younger sister, they should prepare at least this much. Even so, Ryo still doesn't understand how important this event is. Sarah explains that this isn't just some noble's party, it's expected that the heads of major trading companies, along with many people close to the royal family, will attend. You could say it's a stage for diplomacy among the powerful. For the Sato company, this could be an incredible business opportunity. In any case, this party will be extremely important for their company as well. With the way Sarah said it, Ryo agrees, they really can't afford to take this lightly. But ouch on Cooter's part. What a way to put the pressure on her. If that's the case, Kane also thinks it would be best for Cooter to focus entirely on making the cake. Ryo agrees they should all work together to support her. Still, that leaves them with one problem yet. What kind of cake should they make? The master Patizia herself can't make a suggestion. She's too hung up and pressured at the thought that her cake will be displayed in a place like that. Ryo had to interrupt her spiraling, urging her to calm down. Sarah backs him up, saying they're confident they will succeed with Cooter's skills. Besides, they'll help too, so she shouldn't put too much pressure on herself. But Cooter raises a valid question: how is she supposed to make such a gigantic cake? Oh, that's right. Ryo grabs a pencil and paper and starts drawing. He has seen cakes like that before at weddings and all sorts of celebrations, drawing a 3-tiered cake as he said so. Those cakes were decorated with plenty of fruit and intricate ornaments, and just looking at them filled people with happiness. Looking at his drawings, Cooter is captured by how beautiful they looked. Now that Ryo thinks about it, the cake was always the centerpiece of joyful celebrations. He understands how much pressure Cooter is under, but he thinks it would be better if she made it while simply thinking about making everyone who sees it happy, instead of letting the pressure weigh her down. She finally smiles and resumes her usual vigor. Leave it to her. She, Cooter, will put her heart and soul into making the greatest cake ever. Alright, she takes the initiative to start brainstorming the cake's design right away. Well, seeing her like that, Ryo adjourns the meeting. Hana tells him to leave the shop in their care. As for Sara, she tells Ryo that she'll make sure he properly learns his etiquette. He can only laugh, but yeah, he can't afford to embarrass himself in that setting. Before he gets out, Ryo takes one last look at Cooter. He's counting on her. Sara adds that if Ryo ever needs someone to taste the cake, he shouldn't hesitate to call her. But Ryo already knows that she just wants to eat cake. Someone carefully adds the fruit to the fruit burger, but their careful work had to hurry up. These were the works of Alan and Kane, and they had no choice but to speed through it since Hana barks that more orders are waiting. Gah, Kane never knew how exhausting this work is with Cooter away. He and Alan are practically begging anyone to save them. Meanwhile, Cooter herself is behind a special room, undergoing cake making under the guidance of Ryo. For today, he asks if she's down to make a cake without using the skill. She's down for that, and in fact, she's looking forward to it. First, Ryo begins by preparing the ingredients. He activates his storage magic and pulls up their ingredients like flour, sugar, butter, baking powder, and eggs. Cooter can't believe it, these are all just powders. Can these ingredients really make that fluffy cake? Ryo assures her that they can, and starts showing her how it's done. First, he adds a little sugar to the egg whites, then proceeds to whip them. Cooter doesn't get it. Does he really have to whip the egg whites for that long? Ryo just laughs and urges her to just keep watching. Doing this hand is pretty tiring, but soon enough its consistency starts to change. A little while later, Cooter is surprised to see that it's gradually changing into a cream-like substance. This thing right here is called a meringue, and Ryo tells her that it's an indispensable component for making sweets. Cooter looks at it starry-eyed, never knowing that egg whites could actually become like this. To continue, Ryo whips the egg yolks the same way and mixes them with flour. Then they fold in the meringue and butter, and tada! Just like that, the cake batter is ready. Now Ryo puts it into the oven to bake it. The two of them watch as the cake batter starts to rise. Cooter decides to check the temperature, gladly informing him that the heat has reached all the way to the center. Yo, that skill, absolute temperature of hers, is incredibly useful. This skill allows her to know the temperature of anything she looks at. Cooter even thinks that maybe it's a power bestowed upon her by the gods. Then she tells him that it's done. They pull the cake out of the oven, and look at that, it's perfectly baked. It might even be better than the sponge cake Ryo makes with his skill. Bearing witness to all of this, Ryo really believes that Cooter's skill is perfectly suited for baking cakes. Alright, since their trial is done, he suggests they try baking an even bigger one. Cooter takes the lead on that, and as Ryo was about to put the cake batter into the oven, she instructed him to raise the heat a little since the center wasn't cooked enough. He followed as per her suggestion, but when they pulled the cake out, the top was completely burned. Oh man, looks like Ryo turned the heat up too quickly. Oh well. Next, the third cake's top looks good this time, but the inside is still raw. Cooter thought for sure that the temperature was high enough. Ryo tells her that the temperature is fine enough. They just didn't bake the cake long enough. Cooter has now learned that the bigger the cake gets, the harder it is to control the baking, even if you know the temperature. Still, Ryo thinks he's starting to get the hang of it, so they quickly proceed to the next attempt. They went at it all day, and by sunset they produced a cake that was better than the first one, but it still didn't turn out quite right. Since it's getting late, Ryo calls it a day. They'll try again tomorrow. Defeated, Cooter promises to do her best tomorrow as well. Still, Ryo is worried because if a cake this size is already giving them so much trouble, he's concerned about what's coming next. Cooter is surprised, like, what? Are they making a cake even bigger than this one? Well, from the way Lady Sophia was talking, it sounds like she wants a gigantic cake, just like the one he drew before. Ryo thinks they'll have to bake one several times bigger than this recent one they made. Cooter is in disbelief. Can they really pull that off? The next day is no different from yesterday. If anything, it looks worse because the cake is toast. Cooter failed again. She's feeling disheartened, wondering how many times it has been now. Ryo tells her that there were a few attempts that looked promising, but they were still a long way from what they're aiming for. She starts crying because what on earth is she supposed to do? Even our MC himself is baffled because every time he makes one improvement, another problem shows up, and everything just gets more complicated. With Cooter no longer responding to him, Ryo suggests they call it a day and get some rest, since the poor girl's soul is escaping her body once again. Ryo himself went out with Sarah, as he relays their progress to her. She asks if he gave her the day off to clear her mind, and he did. Cooter has completely hit a dead end. Even Ryo can't deny that he's under a lot of pressure this time, which prompts Sarah to tell him not to push himself too hard. Wait, she has an idea. A famous theater troupe happened to arrive in town today. How about they go watch their performance together? From what she heard, they're a comedy troupe, and their shows are absolutely hilarious. She pulls Ryo's hand, suggesting they go and have a good laugh and forget their worries for a little while. Ryo thinks that's a great idea and goes along with her. At the theater, while the jester was busy entertaining the audience, Sarah was pretty taken by his performance like the others. So when the jester fell, she started laughing her heart out to the point that she got tears in her eyes. She turned to Ryo asking if he saw that, but the laughter died from her lips when she saw him still deep in thought. At the end of the performance, Sarah shares how she had so much fun with the play. She laughed so hard she almost couldn't breathe. Ryo feels the same, his stomach actually hurts so much from laughing. At that, Sarah pulls a face and crosses her arms before leaning close to him. Ryo is startled by the way she's suddenly acting, so she tells him that it looked like his mind was somewhere else the whole time. Isn't that right? They resume walking as she asks if he's still thinking about the cake. Ryo finally admits that he is, he just can't stop thinking about it. That's when Sarah told him that doesn't sound like him at all. She feels like he's putting his effort in the wrong direction this time. All the challenges they faced before were far more dangerous and complicated than this. That's true, but Ryo points out that this is the first problem that his skill can't solve, which is why he considers this his first real obstacle. Sarah sighs. She always says this, but Ryo really keeps trying to shoulder everything by himself, huh? Honestly, even the cake he made now is a masterpiece that would amaze the nobles. With that said, she believes he would be fine if he approached this with a little less pressure. Besides, isn't it about time he trusted his subordinates a little more? Sarah and Kutor are on his side after all. Hearing that somehow eases the pressure he's feeling. Ryo thanks Sarah as he tells her that he feels like everything is going to be alright now. Well, he'll just think things over while he heads out for a drink. At that, she paused and echoed what he said questioningly. A drink? Well, yeah, a drink. You see, lately Ryo has been going out often with Alan or Kane. Before that, he used to spend his days practically doing nothing. Sarah can't believe what she just heard. So Ryo really does go out and enjoy spending time with other people. She's actually pretty relieved to hear him say that, while he, on the other hand, is a little butthurt. That's a pretty rude comment, you know? Meanwhile, somewhere else in Solon, Kutor is wandering aimlessly. She said she was going out to clear her mind, but she just can't stop thinking about the cake, and she's at her wit's end. Just then, a man calling out to his coworker to pass the brick to him catches her attention. She looks on and sees a freshly made masonry wall with bricks lined up neatly with mortar. Wait a minute, she got it, now. Kutor watches the men lay the bricks, stacking them on top of each other held together by the mortar. Oh, she sees it now. The next day, Ryo says he's pretty well rested and back to full energy, but they still haven't made any progress on the cake. He just hopes Kutor has recovered too, and now Sarah is also worried for her. Will she be okay? Speak of the devil, and they shall appear. Kutor opens the door, calling out to Ryo. The latter greets her with a good morning, then proceeds to ask if she had a good rest. She did, but more importantly, there's something she wants to tell him. She came up with a great idea for the cake. Even if they can't bake one giant cake, couldn't they just make a giant cake anyway? Huh? Ryo doesn't follow. What does she mean by that? Kutor tells him that it's actually pretty simple, they'll just stack several cakes on top of each other. What they need to do is bake lots of square cakes all the same size, then stack them together. By doing so, they'll have one big cake. What followed was silence as Ryo and Sarah could only stare back at her. That's a pretty amazing idea. Now that Kutor mentioned it, how did that never occur to them? Well, anyway, all they had to do was change the way they thought. There was no reason to insist that the cake had to be round. Kutor actually got this idea when she saw bricks stacked at a construction site. Ryo is so relieved. It's such a simple idea, yet it never crossed his mind. This might actually work. Alright, they have some square molds too, so he suggests they try it right away. First, they prepare the batter the same as before. Then, to start with, they'll bake lots of small cakes. Soon enough, they've got a couple of batters placed in their respective molds, which they put inside the oven. They both watch as the batters start baking. At sizes like these, there's still plenty of room in the oven, so they can bake them all at once. Fast forward to later, they're done. At this thickness, they'll bake through easily. Now they'll carefully trim them so they're even and stack them on top of each other. Finally, they will cover the whole thing with plenty of whipped cream. And then it's done. The first prototype is complete. The two of them look at their work proudly. It actually worked. Okay, they'll use this design for the sponge cake. Ryo thanks her. This was all made possible because of her. Now the only thing left is decoration. Can he leave her to it? Kutor rises to the occasion. Leave it to her. She'll definitely make a cake that will amaze everyone. Ryo leaves her to it, and after observing her for a bit, it's about time he does what he can. But just then Sarah grabs him, worried. He turns to her asking if something is wrong. Did something happen? Well, he said before that influential people from all over would be attending the party, right? With a shaking hand, she hands him a letter. Sarah tells him that her parents will be coming too at Lady Sophia's birthday party. They what?